I'm going to call the Mashpee School Committee meeting of March 7th, 2018 to order. It's 6:30. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, George. A little late.
He's always got his own cake. He's always got his own cake.
All right, I need to inform the committee and the public that we have one member, George Smith, who is participating in the meeting remotely via audio only. With that, I'm going to move to public comment. Do we have any public comment? No? All right. Moving on, since we're ahead of schedule now. To Frederick Hanna III. Anything going on you want to tell us about?
Yeah, there's some important stuff going on, yes.
All right. The floor is yours.
This work? Oh.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I wanted to first talk about the recent drill that we did on Monday. It was a half day. We did a portion of the Alice training, which involves barricading the doors, and the part of the program. So we didn't do the full Alice program, but we did the portion which involves barricading the doors. And overall, it was very successful. I thought there was a lot of good conversation amongst the teachers too, between the teachers and the students. I think a lot of students felt they could address the teachers with any concerns that they had, and a lot of teachers felt comfortable too, talking to the students about anything that they felt wary about or cautious about. And overall, I think the administration too, and all the teachers did an excellent job trying to make sure that the number one goal obviously is making sure that students feel safe going to school, because the main priority is when students go to school, they should feel that the number one thing is they're learning to educate themselves, they're trying to make new friends, interacting with the teachers, and of course, we don't ever want to think about something happening like the incident down in Parkland, Florida, but it's something that students should be prepared about. And I think the teachers did an excellent job making sure that any concerns that the students had, they felt comfortable. And with the students too. There was a lot of discussion amongst the students, amongst my friends too, and I'm sure that from 7 through 12, each grade can attest that a lot of them felt comfortable talking amongst their friends and trying to figure out what this whole situation was, but also feeling too that we're a connected community and that we feel safe together. I think that's one of the biggest things that I took away from this. Also too, coinciding with this, on March 14th is the National School Walkout Day. It is going to take place at 10 a.m. It's student-led, and it's a student initiative, which is taking place across the whole country. The students have the opportunity to either opt in or opt out, so it's not mandatory. It's a student's choice to do it if they want to. And it's to honor the 17 lives that were taken tragically down in Parkland, Florida for 17 minutes. And the main goal is to try and come together on an agreeable thing that the main goal is that students should feel safe going to school, and that they shouldn't be having to worry about something that could possibly happen. But I think coming together, everyone shares the same goal, that the most important thing is making sure you feel comfortable within the school. And I thought the school did an excellent job in terms of Alice, and also in terms of the National School Walkout Day, which I think will be a cool opportunity for everyone to take a part of if they wish to. In other news, coming up this month is MCAS. The 8th grade and 10th graders are preparing with their teachers for the ELA test. Also, too, a lot of juniors are taking the SAT and the ACT in order to prepare themselves for college and their future educational opportunities that they take, and if they choose to go to college or not. The school play is taking place this spring. The spring musical is A Little Mermaid. It will be on March 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th. So hopefully you can come and support the Blue Falcon Theater Company. Term 3 is underway. Progress reports were just recently sent out, along with course recommendations that were given from the teachers to the students as well. And the students have the opportunity to go online to Power School and select their upcoming courses that they would wish to take a part of in the upcoming school year as well. On March 22nd is the National Honor Society induction. There are 22 new inductees, so congratulations to those new inductees. April 3rd is exhibition night for all seniors. that night, the seniors will be showcasing their senior projects, and it's a really neat opportunity for the community and the parents as well, and the teachers throughout the school to come and interact with the students, see what their senior project was, understand what their goal was, and basically kind of how they chose the senior project and the reasons why. I think it's a really neat opportunity that all the seniors will be taking a part of, whether they did an internship with School of the Career or if they did a senior project as well in their senior seminar classes. So hopefully if you can attend if you would like to. And in regard to senior projects, last month Grace Whipper put on a successful career day where the students got the opportunity to go across the school where we had different career professionals we had lawyers, nurses, police officers, engineers, scientists from the Woods Hole. And in the gymnasium, there was a multitude of different professionals where students could interact with police officers, firefighters, military professionals, and then in the auditorium, students got the opportunity to listen to a couple lawyers and then get an opportunity as to if they were interested in the business path, if they want to go into that career, and then also too up in the library if students were interested in going into the AV department or if they were interested in film and something around that area. They got an opportunity to interact with the different professionals, and I think overall there was a lot of good feedback too. And one of the big things too was that students wanted more specific careers, but overall for the first career fair at the school, I thought it was very well put on by Grace Whipper and a successful senior project for her. And then lastly too, tomorrow night the boys basketball team is facing Blue Hills in the Division IV South semifinals. It's at 7:30 in Taunton. It's a long drive, but hopefully if you can come up and attend, I'm sure that you can show your support for the team as they continue to make a run in this tournament too. And also a shout out to Anthony Gonzalez. He was our South Shore League MVP of the league. Well deserved, certainly. A hard-working kid, and I'm sure he's going to be contributing a lot to this run as they continue in the tournament. So, thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item is Morgan Peters.
So Morgan, why don't you grab that mic out of there, because it won't pick you up.
Oh, good evening.
And for
It doesn't
the,
amplify, it's just for the
It's
television.
just for at home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
good
What I wanted to share with you was a video that some of the young people in our mentoring program. I represent an organization called Songkeepers LTD, which is a nonprofit community organization that deals with, well, one of our aspects is youth mentoring around music and media arts. And the young people got involved in a project, an anti-opioid project, through White Bison initially, which was a training that was done on by an organization called White Bison about fighting addiction. And this particular piece, the young folks did a wonderful job. They wrote it. Mr. Douglas Pocknett Jr. directed the piece. And without any further ado, we'll play the piece for you and then go into the dialogue.
Did you introduce this young man?
Oh, I'm sorry. This young man is one of the songwriters and performers. His alias is the ZYG. He looks like me because we live in the same neighborhood. And just so that to also give you a perspective, all of the young people directly involved in this are either current or former Mashpee students. Keon Jackson, who appears as Young Sumo, and Jaheem Fry, who has moved to California, but he was also a student at the middle school. He participated in this before he left. And once again, so anyway, the name of the song is Flippin'.
come up if you need to, so that if you need to see or hear.
I catch a
does. And one thing, it don't discriminate. It will kill red, white, black, purple, it don't matter the race. Narcotics are bad, plead my case. Traditionally, you a big disgrace. Coming at me with that nonsense, get out my face. Unsuspecting teenagers, and kids who wouldn't even yet, ninth graders, count up so much stuff that the creator can't save them. So why you cut off half of the generation? You really put us in a crappy situation. There's more people's lives that messed up their health. You never let me never make you happy with yourself. Before you try to kill me, shut up and listen. I got love for you, but what you do is what I'm missing. Got love for you, but what you do is what I'm missing. Just shut up and listen. What you do is what I'm missing. What you do is what I'm missing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you are? You're done?
We're done, yeah.
Perfect, yeah. Do this one.
Okay, thank you. So again, good evening. Our reasons for the presentation are actually threefold. We wanted to share with the school committee some of the positive extracurricular activities of your students, past and present. We also wanted to address the need for the school department's involvement and support of collaboration with community organizations and institutions around issues that affect our community and youth, as well as take steps towards undoing some of the unspoken ethno-cultural divide that has existed in Mashpee since the 1970s. And we are also in hopes that we'll be able to implement the iambic mentoring program that we've tried to introduce in the last year in Mashpee Middle High School, particularly geared towards the unique experiences of male students of color. And as you know, the name of the music video is Flipping, and it was created by members of the Soul Poet Syndicate, which is a hip-hop spoken word and media arts collective that grew out of our arts mentoring program. And this is the same artist mentoring program that enables me to work with Mr. Troyanis and the after-school jazz band, middle school. And the name of the song is actually derived from the street term for dealing heroin, which is flipping or flipping bags. And also noteworthy is the fact, well, I'm sorry, I covered that already. I'm sure that you're aware that the opioid crisis is affecting the nation in a major way. Might have just read that about $60 billion has actually been put towards fighting the situation. And some of you might not be aware of the fact that per capita, demographically, the Native community, or the Native people, since we're not monolithic, are among the hardest hit. And again, per capita, the Mashpee Wampanoag community sadly tops the list for Indian country. We've had about we've had an opioid overdose-related death almost once every month, which is basically means in a 2-year period we've lost 24 people. And this project was made possible through support of the Osborne Trust, Haymarket Peoples Fund, the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Council, and a generous donation from Miss Rachel Carey Harper. This is a small part of an overall Healthy Choices initiative that the Soul Poet Syndicate is trying to launch. Now, one piece is, in the early stages of the project, I had approached the administration with the hopes that we could involve the school and the students in the project. And the response that we received, and it was of course delivered secondhand, was that we should instead use the tribal headquarters and we could seek the youth out on our own. And unfortunately, this was an opportunity for the school department to demonstrate its care and concern about the issues that affect so many people in the community beyond the tribe, instead of what appears to have preserved the us and them status quo mentality that seems to plague and permeate the community. And that this is not just a Wampanoag problem, this is a community-wide issue. Some of you may have noticed that appearing in the video is Mr. Michael Persico, who's a retired teacher from the Mashpee school system, and he's a very, very close friend of mine. And as a teacher who taught instrumental music to scores of students, including tribal members, he is part of our community, and he lost his daughter to this crisis of opioids a few years ago. Now, Mr. Persico's situation cannot be dismissed as a sandwich problem or as a white problem. This is a community problem, and this is also a very real, tragic, and horrific issue of a parent having to bury their child long before they should, something that no parent should have to deal with. And perhaps the support and involvement of the school system might help prevent students from falling victim to this disease that plagues, again, our entire community. With the same, when you consider, as the young man just presented, addressing the school shooting situation, in the last 10 years, nationwide, we've had 2, possibly 2.5 actually, school shooting incidents, and we addressed that. In the county of Barnstable, in the last year, we have had 60 overdose-related deaths, which, if you do the math, means that the students who attend our school are about 25 times as likely to experiment with opioids as they are to experience a school shooting during their tenure as students in the Mashpee school system. And perhaps what we need to do is stop looking at this erroneously as a Native problem or a person of color problem and as a community issue, as it does affect us all. And this is, of course, reflective of the unfortunate and larger societal double standard whereby when opiate addiction was perceived as an issue affecting mostly people of color and low-income whites, opioid addiction itself was a crime, and the addicts were perceived as criminals and called junkies. But now that the issue has spread into middle-class suburbia, the criminal stigma has been replaced with addiction as a disease, and now the addicts are viewed as victims. This criminalization factor also touches on factors that lead to my third point about the crucial need for mentoring. An unfortunate dynamic in American society is the fact that when males of color, more specifically Native, Black, and Latino males, reach puberty and are now taller with deeper voices and larger bodies, as I can point to the young man to my left and to my right, it appears to be a propensity of teachers, oftentimes of European extraction, who regard them as threatening and intimidating, when in fact they're the same kids who were viewed as cute when they were smaller. This factor was true when I was in school, and it is now, a familiar situation. And if you're familiar with the writings of Dr. Jawanza Kanjufu from the 1960s, the issue goes back to those days as well. Very sadly, not only is Mashpee not an exception from this trend, but some of the more monumental and glaring examples of this activity by some teachers and administrators that I've borne witness to over the last 28 years have occurred within the school system. The tendency to criminalize students of color is reflected in the words and attitudes of the students as well. For example, it was one of the honor students at Mashpee High School who told the following joke: "What do you say to a black man in a suit?" And the answer is, "Will the defendant please rise?" We are also experiencing this in the very liberal use of the word nigger by students in the high school, including white students who claim to have a nigger pass allowing them to use the word. This is prevalent particularly among the students involved in athletics. Unfortunately, when the students of color react negatively to the use of this word, they are the ones who are viewed as irrational and usually face disciplinary consequences for not being the bigger person. Also, there is an unfortunate history in the Mashpee schools as it applies to the experiences of male teachers of color, and it could be understood how deeply this problem runs throughout the culture of the school. Last year, I had approached Ms. Melby and members of the guidance staff with a curriculum and program called IAMBIC, which is an acronym for I Am My Brother's Keeper. And along with Mr. George Spivey, who works with the Indian Education Program, we were willing to offer this program for the males of color who were experiencing the issues that I've described. Mr. Spivey and I represent two of the many men in the community who have successfully navigated the pitfalls of the social pitfalls, due to the mentoring that we were very lucky to receive at that age. IAMBIC is a curriculum that was originally designed in the early 1970s as a means for males of color who attend middle and high schools, particularly in predominantly white communities, preparing them to navigate the social and political landscape, as well as avoid the pitfalls and self-fulfilling prophecies and stereotypical fantasies and misperceptions about people of color. From my conversations with other parents of males of color in the community, a program like this would be highly beneficial, particularly given the dissemination of the social and cultural components of the Indian Education Program. Moving forward, it is Songkeeper Ltd's hope that the administration would be more open and welcoming to the opportunities for community initiatives and collaboration. And also, moving forward, I would ask that the IAMBIC curriculum be adopted as part of the after-school programming, and that students at these schools, the target students, be encouraged to participate. And so in closing, I thank the Mashpee School Committee for your time and attention, and I hope you enjoyed the video, as well as enthusiastically support similar healthy choice initiatives in the future. I also hope that my words are taken in the positive spirit in which they were intended. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comments that you want to make?
No, but I appreciate that you're coming and you're always welcome to come and share your thoughts. This setting is also in our schools, and we've been trying to work with the tribe with our long-term plan of trying to get mentors in place, both of color and not of color, for all of our males. It's really a necessary piece, but we'll just continue to sort of, maybe brainstorm together and come up with some ways to implement some of the ideas that you have.
Okay, because we offered IAMBIC, actually, it will be a year since the program was initially offered to the middle school. And we've had one meeting, and subsequently we've had no follow-up meeting, no discussion, and each time that I've broached the subject, oh yes, we need to do that. And it's been
We do,
unfortunately.
is there like I haven't seen a plan about that or anything in terms of what it looks like. So
Okay.
I think that's what we would do at.
Okay, Ms. Melby has one, as do the social workers, because we, at the school, and the guidance counselor, because we did supply an overall summary of the program and the description.
Okay.
And I'm very encouraged to hear about the mentoring program and process.
Which one?
But I do ask that you appreciate this situation where, we have to recognize the realities of the society in which we live. And there are a lot of people who are not able to successfully navigate the society that we live because of the variety of social pitfalls as they relate to race, class, and economic status. So therefore, we have a lot of young men, a lot of very bright young men falling by the wayside, and I'm watching them fall by the wayside because of the social dynamics of Mashpee High School. And unfortunately, it's not a new situation. It's a situation that's been going on for quite some time. This might help in terms of student retention. This is a situation that might also help in terms of student achievement.
Okay.
Understand, to be completely frank and honest, consider how incredibly rare it is for a male of color, Native American or African American, to actually be a tenured professor at a university. Consider the pitfalls that I had to navigate to make that happen. There were incredible social and political pitfalls that I had to work around. And it was because of the mentoring that I received as a young man that I did not fall into the pitfalls that were put in place for me. I did not fall into the stereotypes and the categories in which people tried to place me as I was growing up. I was not placed in the situation where I had to fulfill racist fantasies that people have about black people or Native American people, because I had mentoring that was able to put it all in perspective for me. And this is exactly what I would like to offer to the young men of the school system who are facing the same situations and that I see potentially going in the wrong direction before we let them go in the wrong direction, or before we let tragic situations happen to them, such as drug abuse, such as dropping out of school, such as criminal activity. And it's not on us to undo what is often referred to as the criminalization. That's unfortunately an unconscious act. I know that this is not an act of malice on the part of teachers when dealing with students. It's unfortunately an unconscious factor because it's just an initial, we live in a racist society, unfortunately. And it's something that permeates our concept of the society in which we live, and it's something that unfortunately permeates our ability to interact with people as people without looking at each other purely from our own prejudices, etc. That is something that we need to undo.
I just wanted to.
I have a comment, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I just want to thank you for coming in, Morgan. It's nice to see you again.
Likewise.
I come in here and yell at this side of the table about no interaction from the public coming to the school committees, and so I appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk. And I also appreciate you coming in with recommendations of how to make things better, as opposed to just to come in here and complain. So I'm very open to listening to you together by ourselves, or whatever you want to do about.
Well, not just recommendation. I'm actually making the commitment to physically implement.
Right, and that's even better.
Too,
And-
because anybody can make a recommendation and then walk away.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Nicole, you have
Yeah,
something you want to say?
thanks. I want to echo that to the three of you. Thanks for coming in, and it's nice to have a little music at our meetings once in a while. It's really lightened the
Good music, too.
yeah, good music. So, and also thank you for your willingness to be a mentor and to help us with these issues in our community. This was one of the reasons I ran for school committee in Mashpee, is because I see our diversity as such an asset and such a sort of uncelebrated aspect of our schools in many cases. And one of the things that Patty referenced just earlier, a second ago, is the sort of revitalized partnership we've had with the tribe, starting with this academic year. And and she's gonna touch on it later in the agenda, but, you know, I think we've made some really positive steps.
I'm trying.
I think we've made some real positive steps that I'm pleased about, and I think are really a model for not just schools, but this town in particular. And, you know, I hope that, you know, the Board of Selectmen looks at some of the things that we're implementing this year and thinks about how they can make change at the town level even more broadly. So I'd love to talk with you more about that, you know, we have a little more time, but thank you, and I think I'm very interested to hear any recommendations that help improve retention, student achievement, you know, social skills. All those things you hit on are important to all of us,
And the other thing I want to add is that I applaud the work you've done with the tribe, but there is a segment of the community that are people of color who are not tribal. We have people who have from Cabo Verde, we have people who are African American, we have people who are from the Caribbean, who do not fall under the banner of the Mashpee Wampanoag, but are still facing these exact same situations and don't even have, you know, if you're a member of the tribe, you just have a support system because this is your community, this is your tribe. My across the street neighbor is my aunt, my next door neighbor is my cousin. You know, Dougie lives 4 doors down from me. You know, so we have that support system, but you have people who are here who do not, and that's part of the situation. So, but no, I very much appreciate that. Thank you.
no, I appreciate the correction, thank you.
Chris, you have some-
Yes, yeah, thank you very much. That video was awesome too. I watched it prior to the meeting, and yeah, I love seeing it. And you know, great job to you and everybody that was involved in it. As far as what you had spoke about, obviously you speak a lot of truths. And when we talk about a lot of these issues, the opioid issue, the divide, and a lot of things that are happening in the school and communities, not only here in Mashpee but nationwide, we see it all the time. The ideas that you have and the things that you want to implement obviously would make a great deal of difference and help a lot of people because, you know, they all kind of tie together. When we look at, there's a lot of layers to this stuff. You know, unfortunately, there's things that are ingrained in the communities that have been ingrained so long that you have to try to change the generations coming up. And by implementing mentoring programs and programs reaching the students as a school district, working with parents, that's our job, is to mold the minds of the young kids coming up and teach them what is right, what's wrong, how to identify things, not to treat people differently because of anything, and to actually look out for each other. And, you know, a lot of things that you touched on, you know, being a Cape Verdean myself and coming from a underprivileged community myself, I know and I can identify with a lot of things you're talking about here. And it is real, you know, and I'm sure that, you know, as a community, Mashpee, especially the school district, we can come together, working with you and make things happen. So I definitely appreciate you coming in, and thank you for the words.
Take George off. Is he off mute?
He wasn't on mute, we just turned him down.
Oh, you turned him down. George, are you there?
Yes, I could not really hear very well, but if the words come through, I do want to thank you to the gentleman for coming, and I will read all about it in a minute.
All right. And you can also watch the video of the meeting, so. All right. So, similarly to the rest of the committee members, I do want to thank you. You know, I believe this is a community issue. I believe that it requires a community solution. And the more people that recognize this and the more people that are involved, and we have a member on this committee who are directly involved, Mr. Smith, Mr. Santos, I believe Mr. Gorman's been also involved in it, and everyone. So, yeah, and Nicole, sorry, Nicole. So we take this very seriously. You know, people are squandering their lives. I know a little bit later on we're going to be talking with the school nurses in regard to other related issues which potentially may manifest themselves into some of the more serious drug issues that you were referring to. And so how do we stop that at the very beginning? How do we have that same groundswell of support and action, and things are taking place, but, you know, according to what you just cited, and what we hear in the papers, people are still dying needlessly, all right? And so, you know, I think we have to continue to try to work together. If we're not working well enough together, we need to keep at it, keep raising our voices in a constructive manner, and let's find a solution, or find solutions, because unfortunately I don't think that there's a single solution. You know, I do like the aspect that you mentioned in regard to mentoring. I think that every individual and every student should have the ability to have someone that they can go to, regardless of where they came from, period. That would be an ideal goal. We don't have that in place today, but I think every person needs to have that ability to be able to reach out to someone that they trust, and also be able to get that guidance. And so I would love to hear more ideas in regard to how we can actually put more of that sort of program in place going forward, because they're only kids once, right?
Yes. And as a parent, you only get one shot.
Parent only gets one shot. We only get one shot as, you know, as school committee, as teachers, same thing, right? We have one shot to make it right and try to do the best job that we can, and learn from our mistakes, and share and grow and develop, and try to improve things going forward. So I appreciate you coming in. Appreciate the video. Excellent job. And let's keep the lines of communication open. Let's keep working on this, and see if we can whip this in our lifetime.
Certainly.
Thank you.
And Patty, I'll send you a copy of the curriculum.
That'd be great, thank you.
Certainly.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Debbie,
Marty.
everyone. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
All right. Seeing we're 1 minute ahead of schedule. I just did want to note, I did skip over, you know, Tanya had communicated to us that for unforeseen reasons, she would not be able to attend tonight. I responded back to her, inviting her to reschedule for the next meeting if she so desired. So we'll wait to hear back from her. All right, now we are on time for our 7:12 agenda item in regard to naming of the soccer field with Matt Treveria at Nord Forte. Is that correct?
First, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come here and speak in front of you tonight. I brought along with me Ed Furtek, who was a longtime member of the Mashpee Public Schools, longtime 25-year member of the Mashpee Public Schools, 10 years as a psychologist, 15 years as an English teacher, 14 of those years he was the English department chair, and he's still our boys varsity soccer coach, position he started in 1998. Ed's really here to speak about Peter Langler as a person and his impact on our soccer community, but I think really in the bigger scheme of things, his impact on the Mashpee community and the kids that he had as players, as students, as kids that came to his house, with his own kids, and they're all over the country, and they've come back, and they've really been the impetus for us to be here tonight. for me to be here tonight. There's really a push from them the last couple of years. So I think what we're looking to do is we are looking to take the upper soccer field, which is primarily our JV field, and name that field in his honor. It wouldn't be, we're not looking for a big sign. We're looking actually to have a rock with a plaque somewhere. There's a plaque outside our gym. The plaque would have a picture of Peter on it, his years of service, and maybe a little small saying, and just something small. He wouldn't want anything big, but I think it's certainly worthy of his accomplishments and his impact on Mashpee High School, the Mashpee Public Schools, and the community. It just again, I think the impetus wasn't really from, we believed in what we're doing, but it was really from his players when they've come back in the community and.
Excuse me, Matt, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Can you ask George to mute his phone?
George,
Sorry, it's very difficult to hear you.
can you mute your phone on your end? Well, if he mutes it,
Well, when he wants to talk, he says
Yes,
something.
yeah.
can you mute, if you mute your phone, then just unmute it when you'd like to talk? We're getting a lot of crunching.
Making this one.
I feel like I'm in the room he's in. Thank you. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No problem. And really, his players that have come back playing alumni games and such, they spearheaded a financial movement to come up with any money that's needed for any project that would be approved. So that's kind of where we're looking right now. We're looking for the ability to name that field and approval. And on that point, I'll just kind of let Ed go into the impact Peter had on the community and on our athletic programs.
All right. Yeah, I'm here to speak about my dear friend and colleague, Peter Langler. He was a Mashpee resident for almost 40 years. He moved here in 1977 with his new bride, Wid, and they lived in the Fells, up in New Seabury, Fells Pond, and raised two boys, David and Matthew, who both went through the Mashpee Public Schools and played soccer. And he also had it was a local business owner, HW Property Management he ran. But he was a giant in Mashpee soccer. He was one of the founding fathers of the Mashpee Youth Soccer Program, which started very humble beginnings. I remember them having a couple of teams originally, and they played on a field out in New Seabury that I can best describe as a cow pasture. But now they've got heritage fields, and we as in the soccer program at the high school are very, very lucky to have parents like Peter Langler who are willing to volunteer their time to our youth to teach them the game, teach them to love the game. Mashpee Youth Soccer is the largest feeder program of any of our sports programs. And Peter started that. He coached from 1990 to 98 for the club. And in 96, he came to the high school. 96 and 97, he was the girls' JV coach. If you remember, the first couple of years, we only had freshmen the first year and freshmen and sophomores the second year. So we just played a JV schedule, and he had the girls, I had the boys. And boy, was I glad to have him on board. Because 95, they said to me, well, you're in middle school, we want to keep the kids busy, so take 36 kids, boys and girls, and they're all yours. And I was so glad to have him aboard. 98 and 99, he was the girls' varsity coach, and he won the first playoff game ever by a Mashpee team. Took a little break after that, but I managed to talk him into coming out of retirement in 2004 to coach the middle school boys, and he did that for 5 years. And then in 2009, Kristen Monteith retired from coaching, and Peter was a natural to move in as the JV coach and my assistant. And he did that from 2009 to 2016. In 2016, he shared the Coach of the Year award for the South Shore League, which is the only time I know of a JV coach being honored that way, which tells you a lot about how other coaches from other teams felt about him. He was 17 years working here at Mashpee in soccer, but these are just numbers. They don't. The real story of the imprint he has on kids' lives in this town come from the anecdotal memories that players had. And I, you know, over the last year and a half, I've had a chance to talk to a lot of them. And Peter was just, you know, the stories were repetitive. He was so kind, he was so nice to us. He, you know, I gradually got the feeling that of the two of us, I was the bad cop, which didn't sit well. But Pete was a great guy. In closing, just a little anecdote about how I met him. It was really under adverse circumstances. It was 1993. I was starting out as a middle school coach. It's the only show in town here in the fall, so I had 50 boys come out, and I was kind of new to it myself, and mistakes are made, so I ended up cutting the president of the Mashpee Youth Soccer's son, David, from the team. And Peter never said anything. He wasn't one of these guys who would come over and, do you know who I am? He would never do that. But the next year, when the kids tried out, of course, David was fantastic and made the team, he was one of the better players. And I made it a point to find out who he was and said, you're David's dad? He said, yeah. And I said, yeah, I made a hell of a mistake last year, cutting David. And we became great friends. And that tells you a lot about the man. He was always willing to give people a second chance, and he didn't hold grudges, and he was just forgiving and just a wonderful person. And he's done a lot for the town, he's done a lot for the kids, and we just want to have some kind of memorial to him, to his memory, and for his family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's one of the easy decisions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I take it, we need to have a motion to accept this proposal to name the JV field after Peter Langley. You have someone who wants to make a motion to that regard?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you supported this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, I'm just curious. Yeah, so moved.
So moved? Do I have
Second.
a second? So I have a motion to rename the JV, or to name the JV soccer field, the Peter
Langler.
Langler.
Yep.
JV soccer field going forward. Do I have any discussion on that? George, did you hear the motion?
George,
I didn't understand the full motion. I believe it was something to rename a soccer field.
well, it was to name the JV, it's the upper field, it's the JV soccer field. It's never been named before, so it's to name it in honor of Peter Langland.
Fine, got it. Thank you.
Do you have any questions or comments, George?
No, thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Just great idea, terrific way to memorialize him. He was a great guy.
All right. Hearing no other comments, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes? George? How do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so it's unanimous. Thank you for bringing this
Thanks, Jess.
to the committee, and look forward to seeing the plaque installed and calling this the Peter Langler JV field going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you very much.
And just to note, I know that you'll be working with DPW director on placement and all of that.
Yeah, with the rock, and we've raised quite a bit of money. So we didn't raise it, but we
Just so
raised
she
it.
knows where it goes and we're all good.
Yeah, we're in really good shape. Yep.
Will you come back when it's ready and tell us what's happening?
Sure.
When it goes in? All right, thank you.
We'll probably have a small ceremony, and
Oh, that would be
Oh,
great.
yeah,
Think
let
so?
us know.
Yeah.
Great.
For sure.
Thank you.
thank you again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is in regard to the revised FY19 budget. I believe you have a copy in your packets.
Mr. Funk hiding. So where's Mr. Funk hiding?
He comes next time.
I feel like it's deja vu. I'm gonna be flipping through the papers.
All right. So at our previous meeting, we had approved a budget that was presented to the town manager and to FinCom. Subsequently, the town manager found additional funds that almost cover, within a couple $1,000s, the budget number that the committee approved in February, on February 7th. So we need to decide whether we want to change the budget number that we are recommending and submitting to the town to match what the town manager has now proposed that he is willing to support.
Can I make a motion?
Please do.
Please.
Yeah. How are they gonna do it if you don't? Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not sure I'm gonna get this right, but, so, I would like to move that we accept the FY 2019 budget of $21,381,532, as approved by the town manager, right?
That's good money.
Well, you don't need
Feeling
that
that coming on, yep.
You don't need that last,
All right,
but, so I have
so
a,
strike the part about,
yeah.
I second the amended motion.
All right, so I'm gonna repeat the motion. So the motion is to approve the FY 19 budget for the Mashpee Public Schools of $21,381,532 for FY 19. And that motion was by Nicole, with a second by Jeff. George, did you hear that?
John, for some reason, I can understand everybody but you talking. Yeah,
join the club. Just kidding.
the emotion and it was seconded, but
Right, so it was seconded by Jeff, and then Don did a recap. So I think they're getting ready to vote. And do you know the amount?
yes, I do, that was, coming down with the $2,000 number, thereabouts.
So the exact amount is $21,381,532 for the FY 19 Mashpee Public Schools budget.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Nicole?
They shook heads no.
Thank you.
I think your phone is selectively deficient.
Or she's got a setting on there that I need to get.
All men are muted.
Just kidding.
How do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. George? How do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, it's unanimously approved and will be submitted to the town manager.
Well, the alternative was.
All right, next item is approval of the February 7th, 2018 minutes. They're in your packet. Hopefully you had a chance to take a look at them.
I move to approve the February 7, 2018 minutes as written.
And I'll second that.
Ooh,
Nope.
George, you got a second from
Nope.
far.
So-
Yeah, that's good.
So, a motion by Jeff, and a second by
I'll concede it
Chris-
to George.
by George, to approve the minutes. Hearing no discussion, Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes? George? And yes, so it's unanimous. All right. With that, we will move on then to the report of the superintendent. And we are 9 minutes ahead of schedule.
Oh, great.
Not that I'm keeping track.
Good evening, everyone. In front of you, you do have the copy of the article. There'll be an article in Friday's Mashpee Enterprise, which is sort of the monthly article, so there's a lot of summary contained within that, so I might be a little bit more brief on this, although I say that before I look into it. We have the report of the Coombs School principal, 425 students. Some of the shout outs for this month are to art teacher Kim Palmer. She organized grade 1 field trips to the Katuitt Arts Center. She also obtained a Big Yellow Bus grant, which helped to provide transportation for that. Principal Lavelle would like to thank the Southport Falcons. Many of them are already reading with our students, but they're also getting training to be part of our reading intervention program. A thank you also to school librarian Meg Smith for organizing World Read Aloud Day. A thank you to the PTO for organizing, this goes to both schools, so I'll probably only say it once, the PTO at both schools for organizing the Casey Coombs Quashnet School staff parents basketball game. So the trophy is staying with the Coombs School. We are a 2-1 currently in this competition. And I will add what Mrs. Bartlett mentioned the other day, that it seems that Mr. Principal Lavelle may have a few ringers on his team.
I think we need to examine your recruiting procedures.
As I said, I have a higher recruiting cap.
Yeah, well, I think you might be interviewing teachers with some sort of goal for
You've got my secret.
Yeah.
However, a lot of our parents are going to be shifting with their children
Yeah.
to Quash next year. So
Which means you're gonna have to work extra hard to
Extra
identify more basketball players.
we may have a growing year.
Mr. Bohr, if I could just point out something really quick, the one year that you did lose, I will say that I was on that team.
And you're coming back next year. Back and back.
I just want to emphasize, that's a really great community family event. It was well attended, lots of laughs. I know in Principal O'Brien's report for Quashnet, she gives a shout out to the Mashpee High School cheerleaders, the young cheerleaders that are at the Coombs School, the jazz band at the Quashnet School, and also the name of the gentleman who served as the ref. He's a parent.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
Lopes.
Lopes. I think it was Lopes.
I don't know, he missed a lot of calls.
Maybe he prefers to remain anonymous.
But while we're on the basketball game, for one, in all seriousness, as the school committee member, I have to tell you, that one of the things I'm gonna be asking for next year is a new sound system for that gym. That is, nobody could hear anything. Everybody was saying to me, and I was like, I gotta find out what the deal is with that sound
Well,
system.
we do have 2 speakers out, however, I want the roof replaced before we invest money in a speaker system.
Got it, all right, I'm with you. When you are ready for that, you just let me know.
All right.
Because I think it is a speaker issue, because it's not that old of a system.
Ah,
So
okay,
it should be
gotcha.
working better than it is.
All right, because when they announce us
You
as the
could
winners next
Right.
year, I wanna make sure everybody can hear it.
Well, when they announced you at the beginning, and everyone ran out.
And here I thought you were gonna ask for the scoreboard to be fixed.
That too. Also,
Forgot about
Principal
that.
Lavelle's report, he wants to acknowledge Stephanie Souza and the Casey Coombs staff for all their work in making a really wonderful math night experience for families. And he's also acknowledging the entire staff and families who made Read Across America Week a great celebration of reading. The only misfortune was not having our Dr. Seuss night because of the last Friday's storm. And March is very busy, so what's it look like it might be on
We're trying to look for another week.
another week? It's
We'll
very
send it out in
crowded,
the Falcon Eye tomorrow.
very crowded month. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, the only thing I would like to add that though there may have been a little snap talk.
Can-
Do you
That-
have like
Sure.
You might
The-
just wanna take it
the
over
mic
there. You can sit over there and just take it with you, because I have a feeling there may be others who want to make comments.
I can come over.
That's fine.
I think what I just wanted to add is not only is the basketball game have been a fun community event, it's really kind of taken on a life of its own. That there is life after. It's not just all about you and I. However, the team, there was a thread, an email thread that was keeping everybody informed with the practice practices and whatnot.
Held at Quashnet.
Held at Quashnet, and that they are continuing to play, and they've got like their own little organization now, playing.
Adults over 30.
So I think it's great that they had that much fun that they wanted to continue it on their own. So
Yes, it was just it was a wonderful event, community, and we're really into it just for the fun. You know, it's not about the competition. It's really okay.
Mr. Looney is making my shelf for the trophy. Thank you.
All right, so we have, thank you, Principal Bell. We have Quashnet School report here, 487 students. Principal O'Brien would also like to acknowledge her art teacher, Mrs. Richards, who also organized trips to the Katuitt Art Center, which is a fabulous resource and facility that's available to our students and adults in the community who should go to events there. Some of the events coming up, or to acknowledge, or I want to say how wonderful STEAM Night was last week at this school. It had almost every teacher, I believe, was here, as well as many parents, and thank you to Mrs. Bartlett for manning a live specimen table, and I know, I'm going
Okay.
and
Yeah, they weren't
Mr.
alive.
Gorman.
They looked alive,
No,
though.
they were
scary.
They were alive at one time, recently.
There you go, there you go.
Very recently, earlier in the day. And then Mr. Gorman manned the oobleck station, which is always a fascinating substance. Yes, he's very good at that.
I just want to make a comment in regard to STEAM Night. Quashnet for the basketball game next year, I saw some good recruits there that were practicing, playing in the gym. So I would suggest maybe you look internally, you might have some competition there to improve things for next year against.
Will do.
Also, I want to acknowledge last Friday was Wampanoag Day for grade 5. It matches with the 5th grade curriculum, but a thank you to David Whedon and Marlene Perry, the Quashnet School PTO, and the Mashpee Cultural Council for, the last two groups helped to fund it, and also the drummers and dancers who really taught our 5th graders a lot of interesting information about the Wampanoag people. It was a great cultural exchange. I loved something that Mrs. Bartlett shared about her son's experience. Didn't you know?
Oh, well, yeah, he'd be
It was-
embarrassed if he knew. I don't think he's watching tonight, but he said that he learned about the medicine dance and that it actually worked, because before he saw the medicine dance, he had a sore throat, and afterwards he felt perfect. And he said his buddy had a stuffy nose, and his stuffy nose went away too. So he's convinced that the medicine dance is where it's at. So.
What's nice about that event too is the number of Mashpee students who get to share their culture with their dance and their regalia. It's really a special event. One thing coming up, which I'm going to just touch on before I hit the other reports, is the 15th, which is next Thursday night. The Music in Our Schools Month concert is a district-wide concert at the gymnasium at the high school. It says auditorium, but I think it's the gymnasium. Anyway. But what's interesting this year is we made sure, in past years it's always included, Quashnet all the way up, but now this year there's a singing group of first graders who will be performing as well. So we were able to make it sort of an all-inclusive program. And then also on the 18th, which is a Sunday, the family skate night.
Yes.
So there's a family skate night for all Mashpee families. It's free at the Gala Rink. It's actually not a night, it's an afternoon from 1:30 to 3. So this is the 3rd year, I believe, that's happened, and appreciation goes out to Mrs. O'Brien's two skating teachers.
Yes.
Okay, and then a couple other events coming up for the Quashnet Schools, the Talent Show on the 29th, which is a wonderful event held at the Mashpee High School Auditorium, and then Family Paint Night is on the 30th. If you've never done that with your child, it's fun. Very fun. Any questions on Principal O'Brien's report? We have Principal Balistracci's report, which Frederick always takes most of what I was going to say. So there are 743 students who attend the middle high school. The middle school red carpet dance is actually this Friday night. That was also supposed to be last Friday night, but the storm. Is that what took? Oh, no. we were supposed to have a basketball game, playoff game that night, so it already had gotten rescheduled, so it worked out well, because that would have been a bad night for that. The 14th is the National Technical Honor Society induction, and then the concert. And in terms of thank you, I think that Frederick already talked about Grace Whipper, but also Mrs. Cat assisted in creating the career day for students, and you know, it's inaugural one, it will continue to grow, just like the basketball game has grown. Principal Balstracci would like to acknowledge Senior Rachel Barrows and the MMHS Gay Straight Alliance Club for launching the Mashpee Has Your Back campaign. If any of you have not received the poster or would like to get one and participate in that, part of it is taking a picture back to back with Rachel, so we'd love to have you stop in at the high school and I'll set that up for you. Thank you to Mrs. Carrie Brody and the MMHS Senior Megan Howard. They are the ones who started the TEDO work chapter of our Math Honor Society. The induction took place recently. And then Frederick also talked about Senior Anthony Gonzalez was being named the South Shore League Tobin Division Boys Basketball Player of the Year. If you've ever watched him play, one of the games I watched him play, he literally fell down, tried to get up, continued to have players stepping on all over him because it was near the hoop. Still bounced right back up, kind of in shock that they were still stepping on him, but and then went for it. So he's come a long way with a lot of the hard work he's put in. I understand.
And he seems to be always smiling.
He does.
He's always having fun when he's playing. Yeah.
And then acknowledging the work of teacher Amanda Howe and Colleen Terrell and technology students who are working globally with students in Laos. And that's also part of a project that's being presented at the National ISTE Conference in June. Any questions for Principal Balstracci? We have the report from Special Ed Director Dr. Curley. If anyone has any questions, you could direct them to her. You'll notice that we increased 2 students in the pre-K level and 1 at Casey Coombs, and then 2 other declines in the higher, and 1 out of district decline and 1 decline at the middle high school.
That's why I'm really glad we rejected that first budget.
We also have a report of Athletic Director Matt Treveri. Frederick already talked about the game tomorrow night. I do want to acknowledge our cheerleaders. We're in a competition, a regional competition last weekend. They came in second, so it qualified them for the state championship on Sunday. I think it's at Whitman Hanson High School, I think one of them told me. So they're very excited about that. They have a nice trophy. They've worked very hard. Some of the recognitions as Winter South Shore League All-Stars, Ashley Kelleher, she's a sophomore on the girls basketball team, and she was also runner-up for Tobin Division Player of the Year. Congratulations to these basketball players, boys basketball, Anthony Gonzalez, which we talked about being the Tobin Division Player of the Year. Devon Ford is a junior. It's his 3rd straight year being a South Shore League Basketball All-Star. Michael Frazier is a senior. It's also his 3rd straight year with that recognition. And Michael Barrows is a senior, and he was a South Shore League All-Star. In gymnastics, Emma Nunes is a junior and Hannah Bennett a sophomore. They were All-Stars. Winter track, Katie Wellington, she's a senior, and she was recognized. And the boys basketball team won the South Shore League Tobin Division for the 3rd straight year in a row. And as Frederick said, we have a game on Thursday night.
I just want to add, Michael Barrows refed all the Mashpee Rec boys basketball games this year, and it was so cool having one of our own kids, but more importantly, like a basketball player at the high school who was the ref. Like, the boys really loved it. I don't know whether it was a job for him or whether he got recruited by somebody to do that, but I hope that they do that every year, because it was really cool to have a basketball player. And the boys just thought he was the greatest, so.
They play tomorrow evening, 7:30 tomorrow night at Taunton High School. It's Blue Hills in the South, semifinal. If they win, then they'll play Saturday, so keep you updated.
You have the enrollment sheet, which I already touched on. The enrollments, I am going to have Gail Hannon add the official October of 17 numbers at the bottom of that for DESI, so that'll be in there for next time. And let's see. in here, although it's not, I'll just go over it. On the upcoming, school committee dates, I just want to give you an FYI that, you know, my self-assessment is due April 4th, and then you have about a month. But Susie Brooks has set up in Teach Point an individual assessment sheet for each of you on me that allows you to click on each element within each standard. So you can rate them, and then there's a narrative, so if you want to add any reasons or anything. So what's going to happen is Don will be able to, when you hit share, you're sharing with Don, and he'll see, and he has his to do himself, and then he'll have a final one that he can do as a consolidated one. But it's better than it's been in the past because it's very well defined, sort of like I did for myself, but then you didn't have access to one like that. So it's clicking, and then you can just write whatever you want to add.
So, as I recall, last year we had a little bit of trouble in regard to making sure that each individual had their own unique
You've made
copy.
your own, she's made your own, and it will say like, summative evaluation, it says Nicole Barton, so each one has its own.
Okay, all right, so, because I know that was a problem last year where it seemed like the first person that was starting to complete it, that carried forward.
Right, so you'll each only have access to the
To
one
one.
form.
Okay. All right.
And then there's a lot of events that we sort of hit on most of them, so I think we're good to move on to school safety, building security, and planning forward.
Yes.
So I asked our school resource officer, Detective Calhoun, to be here tonight as well. And then all the principals are here to discuss it as well. One of the comments that I'll take out of Detective Calhoun's words when he was talking to a couple of students is that in his opinion, and I'll let you say this, but in his opinion, or maybe not, the staff at the Mashpee Public Schools is one of the most well-trained staffs on the Cape in terms of the ALICE procedure. So what we had done is we met as a team before the tragedy in Florida, although timing-wise it might look like we were back into that, to plan sort of our spring drills. And we had decided on this past Monday, with all schools happening at the same time and at a time when Detective Calhoun could have a team of police officers present at each of the buildings. And really the message and the teachers were briefed ahead of time or revisited the training they had in August. And there was discussion with the children. Everyone was told ahead of time that this drill was taking place. But what we were really practicing at this point was the barricade component of ALICE. And you know, being as creative as you can, there are commercial products available that we can look into in terms of securing a door. But one of the things that Principal O'Brien said, one of the best strategies at her school is you take a student desk, you stack it high with textbooks till the handle doesn't move and no one is able to get in. So it's little things like that, but it's actually a great problem-solving activity, not only for our students but also for our teachers. There's a lot of creativity, and for my office as well. That was creative.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the principals, I know that Principal Balstracci has already met with grades 7 and 8 today to sort of debrief on that as well as other topics, and the other grade levels at the high school are happening tomorrow. And really making sure the conversation is taking place so that kids understand that we are going to keep them safe. What I like about ALICE is it allows for decision-making on the part of those who are under stress. And one of the things emphasizes for kids to really, you know, pay attention, be good listeners, but notice things. And some of the conversations today with the groups that Mark had, you know, were, what if I'm in the hallway? What if I'm by myself? And really the message was, you know, for the middle high school, the rally point is Christ the King. If a student ever can't get into a place that they think they could be safe, they're to try to exit the building. And one of the pieces to ALICE that we didn't use in this drill is the communication component, because all of the staff in the police department and the fire, I believe, have the ALICE app that we have, which allows really good communication, which a few people tested even when we weren't in testimony, but it allows you to everybody be connected to know, okay, so-and-so, or there's an intruder in the gym. once people know that, yes, you're gonna barricade, but if you have more information, you might decide, okay, I'm gonna take my kids and where to go. So, you know, that's part of it. And I only had one email from a parent who was concerned because the only message their child, or she has twins, came home with was something about golf balls. They're supposed to throw golf balls, and Principal O'Brien did a great job responding that everyone is supposed to have something ready if you needed to sort of interrupt the intruder's thinking for that split second. So kids are, you know, whether it's a textbook or hopefully not a shoe, because they might need a shoe, but anything. So that idea, so that teacher had talked about that, and that's kind of what the kids left with. But I'd really appreciated if Detective Calhoun wants to share his expertise. We are very grateful that we have him on our team because he is a wonderful problem solver, very smart man.
Yeah, so one of the things I've been fortunate of doing is starting to implement an active threat response to all of the schools. Detective Kuzo, who was with the schools prior to me, started it, kind of got the ball rolling, and together, when I went into the schools last year, we kind of just picked it up and ran with it. Chief Carline is unbelievably supportive of all of the schools, and he's been supportive of myself. He sent me all over the country to get trained, and with the intent to bring that back, and I have. You know, Alice and the government's response, which is run, hide, fight, has been around for a while, but it hasn't been fully implemented, you know, as quickly as it should have been, and as many places as it should have been. And so Mashpee, I know for a fact because I speak with other SROs, and they see and they hear what we're doing. They're asking us to come help them, to come facilitate, and so they really are ahead of the curve. And that just, you know, it all comes down to support of the administration with the schools, of the police department, and yes, the fire department does have the app because he called me and made sure that it was a and I said, yeah, it's all good. But you know, we are working together in this. I mean, they're the most horrible events you'd ever imagine, and unfortunately, we're starting to see them all too often. So for me, we can't fully prevent them, but we can train for them, and we've stayed ahead of it. We've been proactive. You know, all I can ask is that they take it seriously, which they have. I was very surprised this past training was the first time we allowed the students to get involved with the actual barricade. Last year we did a lockdown, and we asked them to just start thinking about it, and we went in some rooms and talked to students, talked to teachers, and they all had great ideas, and they all said, oh, I would have done this, I would have done this. Well, we put them to the test, and I don't think we got in a single room, which is what we want. And so they've made it easy on me. It's been I've been fortunate to be able to train. We're getting to go all public buildings in the town, which I think is awesome. I know we're ahead of everybody, especially the schools, and you know, I'm happy to keep it going.
One thing I wanted to add that is nice that happens is there's the opportunity for teachers to get feedback from the police officers, whether it's Detective Calhoun or one of the others, and they don't hesitate to ask any of the questions about what they're worried about or ideas that they have. So really that kind of piece is reassuring to them as well, that they always have someone to reach out with to find answers to their questions. I don't know if the principals want to add anything?
I'd like to just add something. I just didn't want there to be any confusion, because at my particular building at the Coombs School, we did not do any barricading, and I wanted the parents that are listening tonight to know, because I had informed them that we weren't doing that. We went through using a different lens in my building. We wanted the teachers who went through the drill in the fall to now do that exact same type of drill with children in the room and kind of consider what it is that they would do if they had to evacuate or if they had to barricade. We wanted them to kind of problem solve that. as going through the drill. We also wanted to prepare our students in a developmentally appropriate way for this. So we wanted them to feel safe. We want really our students just to know that it's not about what they have to do. It's about just following the adult, listening to the adult for directions. We followed up with another drill today for a reverse evacuation from our playground, which it was great that we had done this other drill because they were already in like drill mode, and did that drill perfectly well. So I know going into the next drill we were going to add a few more things based on some of the feedback that we got from staff. Officer Calhoun came to our meeting later that day, and then we'll plan that with a few more things for them to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to know that this isn't a response that we came up with. It is the Homeland Security developed it. They call it a run, hide, fight, and that's exactly what Alice is. And we didn't just get certified and then kind of hand out pamphlets and say, okay, here's what we want you guys to do now. We went to every building, every classroom, and we showed them how we want them to do it. We got involved with them. Every school has a slightly different response just because the buildings are different. That's it. Or because the age group they're dealing with. But we've put them all through the same scenarios, and they've all responded exactly how they're supposed to. And it's really the only way you can stay ahead of this. And, you know, we're lucky to be able to do it because I know not all the districts, not that they don't take it seriously enough, but they don't allow the time to do it. So we are very fortunate with that. I know I've talked to parents and students, and, you know, we had some conversations about the drill on Monday because of Florida. It did seem like a response or a reaction to that, but it was already planned. We decided to go ahead with it, and I think it was the right decision. A lot of the students have said, you know, they do feel safer now that they're involved. They know the big thing is empowerment, is what Alice, you know, preaches. And we, you know, not only do we want students to be involved, we expect them to be involved. And, you know, they did a great job.
One of the other things that Principal Balistracci pointed out today to his groups of students was that everyone has an understanding of sort of the options within Alice, that there is sort of somewhat of a unison in our reaction. Like you can't have a bunch of different people all deciding to do different things when a teacher's in charge of 25 students. They can work together and sort of have that shared common goal and an understanding of their options. But he emphasized listening to the teacher and sort of making those decisions based on the teacher. So, you know, it's sad that it's part of what's expected of a teacher today. It's another skill set that they need to have. And our teachers have done a great job and sort of embraced the training. And we're very appreciative to the Mashpee Police for the training that they've provided to us.
Okay. Nicole, you had...
Yeah, I just, first of all, thank you so much. Patty when I learned of Alice training last fall, I was a new school committee member, and I was thrilled to learn that we have such a close partnership with the police department and with you, and she sang your praises, and I think I've heard that from the teachers too. They really appreciate having access to you and your expertise and experience. Through the course of these drills, and particularly this one on Monday, I understand you're trying to train people and the kids to react in these situations, but were any, and I'm not gonna I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess what I'm asking, were any, not real deficiencies exposed, but are there any structural issues at any of the schools that we need to resolve in terms of, you know, equipment or things that we need that we may not have to equip us for that type of situation?
There's always room for improvement, always. One of the things that I like to implement in our training, though, is you use what you have. And we took that head on over the summer when we, you know, the teachers or the staff, the full staff, you know, they got the full experience. We made it as real as possible for them. And initially, they all wanted to be in their rooms. They wanted to be in their own classrooms. And we didn't allow them to do that because you don't know where you're going to be when something like this happens. So with that being said, I've been pleasantly surprised in the last couple of years how creative and intelligent educators are, because they find a way. And you know, we had over the summer in this past drill, 100% of the rooms got barricaded as they were supposed to. That being said, you know, as Ms. DeBoer touched on, there are products out there. There is room for improvement everywhere. I think step one is see what you have and make sure it's functioning properly. I know we've addressed some doors. We've found some doors that the locking mechanisms don't work like they should. That's an easy fix. Some windows that we want them to do more than they do, just open more maybe, just as an option. We've addressed that. So I don't think there's any like glaring security issue that, you know, jumped out that this is a real problem. Because every room or every building is going to be a little different. And it's hard because with these things, there are options. It's never, this is what you will do. And that's with Alice, you know, there's a lockdown and a barricade option, or there's an evacuate option. So we've had discussions about certain doors, whether they should lock or shouldn't be locked. And it comes back to, well, it depends on what the situation you're in. So, I mean, there's nothing that really jumps out that was a major problem that, you know, we had to really sit down and discuss that day. I mean, there are plenty of, everything can have improvements. And, you know, we've had conversations and we're looking at them, but there's really nothing that's an immediate concern.
Great, thank you. So what I was gonna add is that our team is gonna, sort of get together and really assess each building. I have already had conversations with the DPW director. My preference is that every exterior door of every building works with a fob, because sometimes a teacher or group of students could be outside and an issue comes, they can't get shelter because certain doors don't open without a key. So that's kind of an issue at all the schools, particularly at the Coombs School. There's a couple of areas. We've been looking at additional cameras. Right now, there aren't as many as I would like, and they tend to be aimed at the door versus some of the surrounding areas, so we don't get to see. Then we're also looking at, I know this school is already geared towards their new entryway with a double locking vestibule. But we discussed it with Catherine at the other two schools too. And then we have some vendors coming who have a product where you would be allowed in through the first locked door, and then you have to submit your license, and there's a whole badging system before the person sitting at their desk in the office would then bring you in through the second door. So that would be something that we're hoping to get going with this year. But we are definitely going to meet as a team and then decide maybe whether it's worth having an outside, safety and security assessment. We work, closely with the police and the fire, and we will continue to do so. We annually need to update our emergency plan, but maybe after, recent events and after we sort of assess our buildings, we'll make sure that we get their professional opinion on what some next steps might be.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for everything you do too. I know a lot of you at the police department put in a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication to making sure that everybody's safe, including the schools. So, thank you very much. One thing I do want to talk about though is unfortunately, obviously, we live in a world today where, like you touched on, that you can't 100%, thwart this stuff, and it's really unfortunate. But we talked a lot about what we would do in the event. One thing I kind of want to know about is, there's only so much we can do to prevent actions from actually happening. And as a school district, and I'm not necessarily expecting an answer now, but I think all of us as a district need to think of what we can do to, I know we have a lot of bullying prevention and a lot of things like that, but as far as identifying maybe students that are separating themselves from other students, or getting students to notice other students and speaking up about it, not just being afraid that they may hurt somebody's feelings, or which is obviously something that you got to be a little cognizant about. But this is a real issue, and Florida played a big part in it, and there's been other instances. So I think that's something that we really, really need to take a close look at as a district. If you have some information on that, now I don't necessarily expect an answer, but it's something I wanted to bring up, prevention-wise, because that's a big, big issue in my opinion.
So we've had a lot of conversation. One of the things that I like about particularly the middle high school is the size. The smaller size allows us to really know all of our kids. And we were talking about it at STEM night. There are certain events that are very difficult to make sure we're as safe as we would be during the school day because it's widely attended. But for me, and I think the principals agree, for us it comes down to those relationships with our families and our students and really knowing when things are off, definitely looking for students who seem to be disconnected. It's all about the relationships and being connected. So sometimes I think the kids that struggle the most are not as connected as they should be during their school hours, and then sadly they have no connections outside of school too. So they're totally isolated in their world. So we do pay close attention to our students, and we have a really great staff of counselors and administrators and teachers. And part of the homeroom piece that Principal Valstracci added this year at least allows the same teacher or staff member to see that same group of kids every morning to really read whether a kid's having a hard time. But it does come down to noticing kids and really paying attention to if they seem off. But you have to know them. So as many things you could put in place, I don't think anything's going to trump building personal relationships with your students and families.
And also from the student side too, whether or not we have some kind of, whether it's an assembly or something to explain and kind of coach the other students on saying, you know, this is something you need to speak up about. If, you know, pay attention to your peers. If you notice anything that seems abnormal or anything that you need to speak up. Just as if you were to see a package sitting outside of a door that doesn't seem normal. You need to be able to, you know, identify these things and say something and not be afraid to say something, so.
And we did have a few emails after the Florida tragedy, and parents were sharing, you know, conversations their kids had in the car, and were we aware of so-and-so, and, you know, I am encouraging that, and we are aware of those people, but it is really important for students who are concerned about a classmate that they may not know super well, but something's bothering them about them, to let us know.
Yes.
Because then we can make sure that that it is safe, and then we can get back to that student so that they don't have to stress about what they think or don't know about a student.
Well, thank you.
Jeff, did you?
No, sir.
Well, thank you for coming in. It's assuring to hear your words, you know, and also hearing from the superintendent in regard to some of the actions that we currently are taking or are anticipating taking down the road here. I think it's you know, a combination of everything. You know, do we have the right security? Do we have, from a physical standpoint, do we have cameras in the right place, monitoring the right things? You know, do we have enough teachers in it to be able to build those relationships, or staff to be able to have adequate relationships and be able to read each kid on a daily basis? You know, and because, you know, the best solution to this is prevention at the source, right? So if it, you know, catch that situation before it has an opportunity to ever develop long-term and become a tragedy, such as what just recently happened. And so I would encourage the superintendent and the administration, you know, to be proactive as you look at things, and don't hesitate to come back to the committee. You know, I know our budget's tight, but this is, you know, I can't underemphasize the importance of us being able to take proactive action, and, you know, not knowing what is needed to do that, there's no excuse for that. So we need to know, and I would like to have an update, and I think the rest of the committee would like to have an update before the end of the school session this summer or this spring. What have we concluded? Is there anything that this committee should be moving forward with? Do we need to go back to the town, ask for more money, et cetera? I know we just approved a very tight budget. I know things are tight for them, but certain things take priority. And safety of our children and providing a proper learning environment take priority to me. I'm willing to spend my tax money on this, and I'm sure there may be a few others that would be willing to do that too.
And I will say, connected to that is, in the meeting that I had with the town manager on Friday, he brought up safety and security in the buildings and definitely gave us his support in terms of what we might decide that we need, that he is open to that. So he's definitely on the same team. And I wanted to add one more piece about, kind of tied to what Chris said, and something that Principal Balistracci said to his kids today. And it's probably more a middle high school problem, but just emphasizing that no student, and I know they talk about it here, is to ever open an exterior door to anyone. And it could be someone you know. But that sort of habit of mind about safety is important, and particularly like, don't wedge a door open because two of your friends are running in and they're slightly late. There's just that whole continually reminding students that it only takes a split second, and everyone understands if you're walking by and you don't let them in, there's a process for that. So we just have to continue to sort of emphasize and work with students so that they think safety at all times, which is another sad thing, but they have to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on.
Yes, so next on the list is We Are Mashpee, and you have a little handout that I think I gave everyone. So we're very grateful to Mashpee Commons, and they have given us a lovely space, 12 Central Square. It is next to Cupcake Charlie's, rent-free through December of this year. And we're really excited about this partnership. So the handout that you have, what the space is going to be called is #WeAreMashpee. And, the little vision, which I would like to read since this is on TV. Through a valued partnership with the Mashpee Commons, the Mashpee Public Schools will be able to showcase our outstanding pre-K to 12 programs and opportunities, highlight the accomplishments of our students and staff, and offer school-related and school-created items for sale to Mashpee residents and visitors. We anticipate there being student performances, interactive exhibits, virtual tours, and opportunities for students to apply their knowledge and skills at our We Are Mashpee outreach location. A year-round venue in the Mashpee Commons will provide us with an off-campus outreach opportunity, providing easy access for our connected community to learn more about our schools. This partnership is a collaborative effort promoting why it's great to be in Mashpee. So you have a little information down below on the plan. It's definitely a pilot. So what we're asking for tonight, or what I'm asking for, is approval from the committee to hire a part-time, we're calling it it's an NPS, Community Outreach Coordinator. Now, long-term plan is we want a full-time outreach coordinator, but this is specific to the We Are Mashpee location. It would be someone who would work 19 hours. They cannot exceed 19 hours per week. And what we're running into a little bit is sometimes people work for another area of the town, like Kids Club, and then we have them, and then it becomes a glitchy situation. So we're going to be clear on that. This person would be sort of in charge of really getting this up and running. We do have a grand opening date of April 7th. Do I have that on here somewhere? Yeah, up at the top, April 7th is our grand opening. So what we're looking at is through June 30th of 2018, it would be a cost of $5,700. It would be 15 weeks, $20 an hour, and that's assuming the 19 hours. Right now, a lot of trying to get it up and running and to the way we want it, and I want it to be fabulous, is landing a little bit on Mike Looney, and he can only do so much. So we really do need a person to take the lead. It would be a perfect job for a retired teacher. Because eventually, when we have our outreach coordinator, the person would be housed, that would be their office, is in this location. and we want them to be very knowledgeable about the district. Because although, for me, it's not like a museum kind of thing, but it has a side element of selling items, but the biggest piece for me is highlighting about the schools. So we could have a section that might be, you know, specific to the tribe. That would be a great thing to do. We'll have pictures on the wall, but we'll have Chromebooks in there where they can come in. It will be all 3 schools, so there'll be a display that's specific to learning about the Coombs School with some interactive pieces. We'll hopefully put a clear touch down there, so whenever the outreach is not open, there'll be something in the window that people can learn about the schools. So it's kind of a, definitely new. You realize, you know, we had our little pop-up store at Christmas time, which just sort of landed in our laps. And then we went and met with John Renz, it was Principal Balistracci and Mr. Looney and myself, with the proposal, and then he came back very supportive of that opportunity. So it's kind of an extension too in terms of some of the funding with the community school program that Mike Looney runs during the summer, which is the summer school program. So there could be sort of an overlap of that. But partly too, his entrepreneur class, they are currently exploring and developing sort of some product lines. We talked about beach towels and fleece blankets, things like that to offer there. But I personally see it as a huge opportunity. It would be very unique. I don't think too many other school districts would have such an opportunity to be an outreach, because I think a lot of people don't know about our schools, and to come to a school is not easy for a lot of people to do. But different people that might be there, whether they're tourists or just there, you know, getting a cupcake next door, we're gonna be able to grab them in to learn about the schools. We envision having different musical groups. It could be the jazz band performing on a certain night. We were gonna try to combine an activity for our location with things that are going on with the Commons. And the location is safe in that it's in that Bobby Burns, that inner, which makes me very happy because we will be able to have kids performing and doing things. You could have a small group. You know, if we were already up and running, I would have a small group from The Little Mermaid do a couple of, you know, little skits there. So it's really wide open in terms of the ideas that we can do. So we're basically looking, well, one, for your support in the project, the overall project, and then secondly, for funding a part-time sort of coordinator who's going to pull all of this together, which could be long-term leading to something that's not now.
So what happens to the revenues? Are they in a revolving account, or where do they go?
Right now, the revenues related to what we did at the winter time is in the revolving account. So what Mr. Looney's currently using, it just keeps going to buy more materials. Not only for the things they make, but also for the things they buy that have the Is that correct, Principal Balistracci? So the pop-up store that we had over Christmas time, the funds collected went in a revolving account, or did they go in his, is that where it went for Mr. Looney, then he purchased more materials?
Goes right back into CTE, and then, it goes in the career and technical education account, and then it just goes toward more other product. So keep an inventory.
I was just thinking if more groups become involved that do their own independent fundraising, like the Blue Falcon Theater Company, or, you know, like as parts of the school that are maybe not explicitly CTE, but are using the space to promote their, I don't know, I think we just need to think about, it's bigger than a pop-up now. If it's gonna be a year-round offering, the revenues might be a different revenue stream than what we experienced over Christmas.
Christmas was pretty big.
Yeah, I know.
It could be, that's not for me, that's not the primary goal. It's not meant to be, you know, I don't really care for self-product there as much as I do about getting out the message about the schools. Where once you learn about the schools, oh yeah, I would like to have a hat, or I would like to have something Mashpee. But to me, it's more the opportunity, you know, to display student artwork, all the different things that they make, all the way up, because they make some phenomenal art things down lower, and some of the technology that's happening in terms of those types of projects that could be displayed there. I just want, you know, my concern is we presented it to Mashpee Commons sort of in my vision of, 2 years down the road, what I want it to be. So I want it to be like that now, and I know I can't, but we need to make it sort of, we wanna be proud of it when we still want it to be.
It's a great location. Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good location, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that with the Old Spice store?
Apparently, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great
It's
location.
gonna smoke in there too.
Oh, not this one.
Cupcakes right
And I
next
have
door.
to say, Mashpee Commons, was so generous, they offered, I think, I don't know how many places that Mr. Looney and Mr. Balstracci were allowed, they gave us the map, and here are the places we're willing to let you have, and we got the first choice they picked, I think.
Yeah,
Right.
so that was a testing space, which was huge, so.
Yeah.
This was a better location, next to Cupcakes.
Yeah, and the bakery's on the other side, so
Yeah.
you've got Cupcake Charlie's and then Wash Ashore.
Shall we send them a thank you or something officially from the school committee or from the district?
Yeah. I think I did, but we can do that tomorrow.
Yeah, because that's significant. And,
It's fabulous.
yeah.
So, I guess personally, when I look at this, I'm not clear in regard to, one, the real cost of operating this, because you list on here some operational
Yeah, we do have to pay utilities.
requirements, so, it'd be great to see some sort of proposed budget, for this, besides just, what you're contemplating here for, at least I guess this is an initial step, because then you list here some part-time.
So initially, through June 30th would be this part-time person, 19 hours a week. Because during the school day, we often have our transition program students and a staff member over there. And I do envision this sort of being an opportunity, which does have a cost, of employing students in the summer, because that's gonna be glitchy, and hopefully continue with some of the volunteers that we've had, various, maybe not the assistant superintendent, but various, I wanna do it again. But Southport copies and some of our other, friends out in the community to volunteer. But you'll see that the third bullet is, particularly down the road of having 2 part-time clerks. These are not the person in charge of really getting it all set up. This is, I didn't put down their salary, I had it down there, or did I? They're a less hourly rate. I think it was minimum wage or $15 an hour, something like that. And then on the other sheet. Because that's the only part, they're only requiring that we be open 5 out of 7 days, which is nice, so we have flexibility, we have to be open 7 days a week, even though I laid it out like that, but, in our lease, that with them, we do not have to do. And in terms of insurance coverage, liability-wise, the town added an addendum to a rider to their policy was the way that they suggested we go.
So, where do you see the funds coming from?
I believe currently the funds were projected to come from the, summer school program that Mr. Looney runs. Mr. Balstracci also has some money in an account related to, when some Chinese students came. There are some sort of weird pockets of funding there that could be used to initially get this piece going. But we definitely have, it's one of those sort of, here's the project, and now we have to make sure we have all the pieces in line, but.
Didn't we discuss, funding the outreach pilot out of school choice anyway?
We did discuss going sort of halftime at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, so we could work up a budget and, this being a pilot program might be something that if we can't find some sources within, some of the miscellaneous accounts, that we would probably explore that avenue.
Is something you probably should go through the finance task force
Working
The
group.
working group?
working group, sorry, I'll get that terminology right one of these years.
Yes, we could bring that, we'll have it work, we could have a budget worked up and we have a meeting relatively soon with that group again.
I mean, that would make me feel more comfortable if, we had a budget that was drawn out, or at least a proposed budget, along with identified sources.
Oh, I agree with you, and I actually agree with what Nicole was talking about too, about identifying how we're gonna house the revenue, because there will be some. And I don't think it should be, you know, a singular revenue for the use by CTE. You know, let's try to just see what our options are.
Yeah, so, I mean.
Even though that's not the primary goal, but there is gonna be revenue.
We anticipate, you know, the PTOs will be able to have part of their.
Right.
So, I think part of the whole, the QuickBook opportunity, QuickBooks, the way they set it up for that location, they want someone to log it in correctly.
And is somebody looking at like some type of point of sale system? I mean, I don't think it's, what we did for the pop-up is not sustainable, I think, as a means of tracking purchases.
No, he had that, definitely.
Okay.
So it sounds to me that there are some things that need to be worked out as far as the details, but what you're really asking for then is approval of a proof of concept subject to getting those details looked at. And is that correct?
Yes, I'm also hopeful we need some part-time person to do all of the, like that person could work on developing the budget. There's just things that need to sort of get done, which kudos to Mr. Loon, who's been trying to handle it all, just getting to be a challenge.
So you would need, you're looking to move forward immediately then to fill this position?
Up to the $5,700 one.
The $5,700.
Just looking for someone who's going to work 19 hours a week from mid-March, although probably won't be mid-March, until June 30th.
So you need, ideally you need them on board before our next meeting in March.
Well, we need to be able
Grand
to sort
opening's
of
April
post.
7th.
I know, we need to be able to post
Targeted grand opening.
the position.
So, but you're asking for us to approve the position without really telling us how we're gonna pay for it.
I've been assured from Mr. Fun, 5,700, that would be this year.
I don't see him.
Where is this?
This is not his meeting, yeah.
So he's not suggesting that we need school choice funds to do this. He thinks we have it in the existing budget.
He does.
So I have a question on the position. Obviously, I understand the need for the position right away to get things moving, get things stood up. 2 months down the road from now, what do you envision this position doing? Are they gonna be doing bookkeeping? Are they gonna be coordinating all the events that are happening? You know, because we're gonna have volunteers as well. What are the 19 hours actually gonna be spent doing?
Part of that person's job would be coordinating the volunteers, but both of those things that you talked about.
Okay.
Sort of setting up, sort of scheduling displays or a cycle through of exhibits. They're not gonna be in the store all the time, but they would be responsible for, not the store, the location. They would be responsible for connecting with me or connecting with Mr. Looney in terms of needs that they have.
I guess the reason why I ask that is because if there's gonna be a lot of coordinating done by volunteers, a lot of coordinating done by the administrative, if bookkeeping is gonna be done by somebody else, not that $20 an hour is a lot, but in that position, if they're not gonna be doing a whole lot of that stuff after the setup happens, I mean, for a part-time job, $20 isn't too bad, if you don't have a whole lot of responsibility.
Well, there's responsibility in this job.
Well, and the other part of that is, you know, this is, in reality, a real school-sponsored activity. Then, you know, we need to make sure that we've got all the appropriate controls and processes in place to go with that.
I mean, it's really a site coordinator. I mean, outreach coordinator makes it sound a little fluffy, but it's someone who's gonna be the point person for the, responsible for coordinating all of that. So.
Right, and actually, it sounds like getting it up and running day one, right? So all of that has to be in place. With help.
I'm up. I think this is just the best idea we've ever had.
It's pretty awesome.
And I really think this is an awesome idea. We talk about outreach. This is, I mean, the potential of this is spectacular.
Maybe the school committee could host hours there.
Make a motion.
No. I told you I'm having office hours there. Don't you try to kick me out of the main office. Yeah.
Is it my office? Is that where
No.
I'm
I will be in Hope's
I
office
was
every
gonna
Thursday.
volunteer it
Exactly.
if you.
The bus tape office.
Okay. So, does someone want to make a motion?
I mean, I mean, are we ready to make a motion? Honestly, I know that we have a targeted date, but do we want to have the working group figure this out? And
I think Patty's asking us to,
are you asking us to raise our hands here?
yeah.
I will have something. Go ahead, George.
On the agenda for a vote.
No.
No.
Shouldn't it be? Particularly since we're talking about spending funds.
Well, we're not talking about spending, we're not talking about spending new funds or adding additional funds or allocating anything that's not already been allocated. Patty just wants our permission to, I think it's more the idea of a part-time position, whether we're comfortable with adding a part-time position to facilitate the opening of this store in a month.
So we set up a process where this would go through a discussion with the working group first.
When did we do that?
I don't think we have, George.
Because, George, we haven't shared out sort of the progress we've made in the working group and sort of the, what you're gonna end up wanting the school committee to
approve.
accept as sort of our process.
Right.
I'm confused because I thought we already talked about the outreach coordinator being funded, so I don't know why we're having this
We talked
discussion.
about
Yeah.
outreach coordinator.
I'm pretty sure we all as a group talked about outreach coordinator being a pilot program that we would fund via, a part-time pilot we would fund via school choice because we didn't want to add it to the budget. I don't know if we all voted on that particular thing, but I don't know why that would be a surprise.
Yeah, well, we didn't
We didn't vote.
We didn't vote, and
Discussion.
it got scrapped when the revised budget, yeah, came out.
Okay.
So that was the position we didn't add, because we added the other two positions
Right.
instead. But I mean, if you're asking if I'm comfortable with you moving forward on this, you know, I am. I don't think you need a vote. But do you think you need a vote? Because George is right, we don't have a vote on the agenda.
Right now.
I mean,
Where's the money coming from? Is it coming from what side? Where in the budget? Is it coming from payroll?
I think we need some more information before we start talking about where the money's coming from.
Well,
We-
I mean, that would kind of decide whether or not we need a vote, because if the money's coming from money that's already voted in our budget, then it's
It
up to
is.
her to spend it as the superintendent.
Right, it is already.
So we kind of need to know where it's coming from, then we know if we need to vote or
I
not.
don't think there was enough. No.
Because we don't know how much it is.
Well,
We don't know how much it's gonna cost for a
Well, at
POS
least this
system, or
position, I'm sorry.
utilities, or
Yeah.
Wi-Fi access.
Speaking specifically on
Yeah.
the position,
Okay,
that's what I
okay.
mean. Yeah.
Got it.
And I guess personally, from my perspective, I would be surprised that we're gonna get, even if you posted it tomorrow, that you would have it filled before our next meeting.
Can you say that again, John? I can't understand, sorry.
Go ahead.
So he was talking about he'd be surprised if we posted the position tomorrow, we would have it filled by the next meeting on March 21st. And it would be, usually we usually let a posting run for 10 days. So it would be very close, but we would, at least maybe when we come back on the 21st, we could have sort of a rough draft budget. We're not sure what I think Mr. Looney was checking with the Mashpee Commons as to what the normal, electricity bill is in that space. Some of the unknowns that we don't have, but we could come back with all of that information, with Mr. Funk being present as well. But I would prefer to be able to post.
So, this is real quick, I guess I'm saying, Patty, and speaking of everybody else on the committee, I guess where I'm coming from with this is, say you said you were gonna fund this position, just the position only, out of, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw something out there, like the CTE budget line, I don't know, Well, then we don't need to vote, because we already voted that you have that money. How you choose to spend that is up to you as a superintendent. We entrust you with that. So that's all I'm asking is, where do you intend to spend the money on, what budget line? And if yourself and the business manager decide there's money in there, then we don't need to vote on anything.
Well, that's not 100% true. I mean, because CT's budget line doesn't have salary in it.
Well, that's,
And we'd have to go ahead and transfer money.
no, I
and
get, well, I was
approve
just
that in a
using,
vote later
I was
anyway.
using it as an example. That's
Yeah.
why, but without knowing what
Terrible-
line item it's
terrible
coming
example.
from.
It's a terrible
Hey,
example.
hey,
So, so maybe one alternative is, you know, a consensus move to allow the superintendent to move forward with posting a position, but then over the course of the next 2 weeks, work with the finance working group, come up with filling in some of these gaps, and then be able to present that to the committee on the 22nd, or 21st, I'm sorry. Is that? And then, you know, at that point, you know, we can put it on the agenda if a vote is required to do so. So, George, what I was talking about is having the superintendent go ahead. Thank you. I found the button on her phone that was blocking me personally, so the annoying Dawn button is off. Having her go ahead and, you know, post the position, subject to, you know, the funding and the business plan being nailed down. Come back to the committee on the 21st after having an opportunity to work with the finance task force and others to flush out some of the gaps here so that we have a better business plan that can be presented to the committee. And if a vote is required, then we will schedule a vote at that point.
Okay, so what we're voting on, or about to vote on, is giving the superintendent the authority to post for a position, period.
No, we're not voting on anything.
Well, I don't want to be a due process hawk, but we are required to approve any new positions as a committee.
The filling of a position.
No, the creation of a new position. This is not an existing position in Mashpee Public Schools.
It's not an existing position, yeah.
So, by policy, we're required to approve that.
Well, in the past, we did have a volunteer coordinator, which was our outreach coordinator.
I know.
We have a job description. Just saying.
I mean, if it's in the budget right now as a salaried line item, we can probably get away with it.
But that job is not in the budget.
It's been gone
But
for a
the
couple
job
of years,
description
right?
is in the
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah, we have a job description.
So I guess you could say maybe non-technically it's not in the position.
which is being filled by you currently right now, right? You're doing a lot of the volunteer coordinator?
Gail.
Gail.
You've
Mostly
done
Gail.
some too.
Oh, okay, so we could sneak away with
Yeah.
All right. I'm happy.
I mean, if the committee
I was
is-
already happy. I'm good.
Really?
I'm ready to go.
If the committee is comfortable with that approach, or,
I'm happy because Jeff's happy.
yeah, or, you know, we could formally vote to create the position at this point, and move forward. With it being a, you know, unexpected,
I don't think we should do any unagendaed voting, to be honest with you.
no,
So I just,
I don't personally see it as a critical situation that we have to do that
right.
today.
And I'm under the,
I support the plan. We got more information to get. So that's my
I'm
comment.
under the impression that the position was just unfunded.
Okay. All right, so, move forward?
Or with the posting, correct? Is that what you're saying, Chris?
Next on the list is the digital marquee. You have a handout on this as well. So what we would like to do, and we're just at the early stages, and, there's a cost, associated with this idea. It has not gotten in the hands of Mr. Funk to negotiate it downward, because he will. And this company is on the state bid list. But anyway, the gist of it is, we would like to replace the Mashpee Middle High School sign that appears on 151. It has to be manually put letters up with, sort of an electronic sign, a digital marquee. There is a, bylaw apparently against, electronic signs in Mashpee. So again, kudos to Mike Mooney, who's put in a lot of legwork with this. The company came down, looked at the site, and sort of has created a rendering of what it would look like. Met with Mike Mendoza, the building inspector, or building something. And he said the first step we needed to do was to go to the design review committee. So we actually have an appointment on March 20th at 8:30 in the morning for them to review this proposal. We also are planning to attend the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 12th, just to say, this is something that we would really appreciate support in, we would really like to do. We did mention it to the town manager and assistant town manager last Friday. I don't quite know the history that might go behind the electronic sign bylaw. But if it requires sort of petition and you end up at town meeting to change the bylaw, I'm pretty sure we could gather the signatures that we needed. The interesting thing about this sign and what I think is great about it is everything is handled by, your cell phone. So there are certain people who can put anything sort of in the chute to be displayed, but there is a person in charge of making sure it's okay. And so it gets queued in. But the police and the fire, they can also have access. And so for me, what I had said to the town manager, it's a great opportunity in the summer to have a big welcome to Mashpee sign. It's lit on both sides, very visible. It could be a way, for the town side to advertise, their veterans ceremony, or it would be an opportunity for police who needed to get out a message or an Amber Alert or something like that. So it would be a nice tool for everyone to use. And yes, for us, it would say Mashpee Public Schools at the top. It would no longer just be a Mashpee Middle High School, place to display happenings or announcements. It would be, all of the different schools would have access to doing that. And then we would take the current sign and move it into the interior sort of horseshoe area closer to the school, so it could still be used for some messages to our kids, done manually. So it's just the starting process to get everything approved, and then we have to figure out, whether, sources of funding again for it, but it's letting you know that this is something that we would really like to move forward with, and something that we would hope the school committee in concept would support. The whole funding piece is a whole different story. And what kind of, we probably have, maybe some fundraising efforts. There could be various ways that we could go about trying to raise the funds for this. And I would presume Mr. Funk will be able to get it decreased as well. But we wanted, this is sort of an FYI for you, and if you have any other thoughts about it.
So originally, I thought the funding source for this was going to be the parking fees at the high school. But
that will be partial funding.
yeah, as I look at the total out,
Right, yeah.
we must charge a lot for those parking fees.
No, it will not cover most of that. So I think, we're gonna have to figure out the cost factor, but sort of making sure, I'd rather go forward to see if it's even feasible, and then we'll have to figure out what we're gonna do about funding and how we're gonna find it, versus doing that and then being told we can't have it anyway.
Yeah, I think there probably are more than a few challenges to get through the current zoning and bylaws.
Well, we're gonna try.
All right.
All right, so that's the marquee. Okay. Very quickly, the next one up is the AASA National Conference that Hope and I were able to attend in Nashville. And I just wanted to quickly share 3 of my takeaways. One of the sessions I went to was all about different districts that have created a portrait of a graduate, which is a project that I'm going to take on with Hope, and it really involves the community. And I have several samples, but it's a way to engage the community, sort of to develop sort of a collective understanding or vision of what a Mashpee graduate has. And so then it creates a visual that goes along with it, and everything feeds into that. And it's part of, it's a Battelle, I think, backs it, but they have a goal on this, that by 2021, 21%, which they probably just made up that number, of school systems across the United States are engaging in their communities in developing this. And just to sort of a quick look-see at a few of them that they end up looking like, they take on, that's part of it's a 4-step process, but part of the interesting part is the different ways they end up looking based on what your community wants. But I think it'll be a really good visual message. I don't think we have it in place right now, so it's a project that many members in the community, students will be involved with, at least one of you will be involved with, and school members, school members as well. So that was one of my takeaways that I liked. One of the other ones, which I've already started to do, and we sort of agreed to the name of our location, Mashpee Commons, was changing our hashtag from just Mashpee to We Are Mashpee. And it was a district in Ohio that was working on branding themselves, and they ended up with the We Are Lakota. And I'm like, oh, that's so much better than just hashtag Mashpee. So we're starting to shift that. And one of the other stories from the district out there, Minnetonka, which I think is Michigan. Interesting part that superintendent shared was about their strategic planning, and they've gone to much more of a sort of a business creative, innovative model, and more short-term strategic plans. And sort of one of the things they do is they do sort of this innovative, get a name for it, but they open it up to their entire district and parents, and everybody throws in ideas, and then the big hunt for ideas, thank you, and then they end up narrowing it down and keep narrowing it down and sort of do some,
They use human-centered design and then lean startup.
So that they're kind of like adopting some of the high-tech companies' methods of bringing about change. But it starts at the root, sort of, with the teachers. So I really want to look into that sort of as a strategy for us. It was a very good concert. There were a few concerts there too. It was Nashville.
Marching band. That was the
Marching band. And I will say, sadly enough, that one of the closing speakers, when all the superintendents from across the country were there, was the mayor of Nashville, who recently had a misstep.
Yes, she did.
She had good things to say about public education.
She did.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of great opportunities there. And what I liked about that is really hearing from superintendents themselves in sort of some of the strategies they've implemented and the success they've had. So it was great for the opportunity that we got to have. Okay, the March 14th event at the high school. I just want to emphasize today in particular, when Principal Val Strachey met with 7th and 8th graders, and he will do this tomorrow as well. We emphasize to every student it is a student-run event. We are grateful that the students have come to us, as well as involved the police department, because they are focused on safety. But our message to our students, and particularly for tomorrow, I think the 2 student planners are going to speak to the older groups. Every student can opt out. No one has to participate. They'll probably go into the gym. I did communicate to Cape Cod Times today, because the decision was made as well from a school administration point that no media would be there. So Cape Cod Times, Mashpee TV, Mashpee Enterprise are not going to be attending. We want it to really be focused on the students. But we had a planning meeting with the 2 students, and they're doing the orange ribbons, which I know has to do with improving gun laws. And they have, or are creating a PowerPoint. They have some student speakers. Hopefully, I think the idea was that they would land in the auditorium. However, I do believe there's chatter about some students walking out, and we'll support them, and we'll have extra police on site, and the entrance to the high school driveway will be locked off. But we really wanna give the kids an opportunity. One of the things they were going to do at the end of their 17-minute assembly, and one of the suggestions Principal Balstracci had read about was having it live on, so, you know, make it about the number 17. Find 17 students in Mashpee Middle High School that you have never said hello to, or you don't know. Say hello to them. Start coming up with sort of ways to sort of expand kindness and changing the culture as well. But they were, as last I knew, going to have 2 petitions for students to sign. One was asking for more funding for school security and safety, and one was asking for more funding for mental health. And the idea with, once they had signed these petitions, that we would have something to actually forward to the state legislators and forward to the federal level. I don't know if some of the conversation with students will evolve around gun safety, so we'll have to see how that is. But overall, they have said they were focusing on school safety. But kudos, you know, to the 2 students, and I know it's a Cape Wide initiative, and I will also speak that Bill Zammer had called us at, I think it was a February vacation, offering to provide bus transportation for students who wanted to go to the National March on a Saturday, which is, I think, the 24th. Yeah. Which I responded that, you know, as far as I knew, there wasn't any plan in that, and that wouldn't be something as a school system I would sanction if parents want to do that with their student or child. And I believe there's sort of a smaller version in Hyannis that day, and maybe even in Boston. So I want students to advocate and be involved, but beyond the March 14th, basically 20-minute opportunity at Mashpee Middle High School. That would be okay. Vaping. Oh no, Mashpee Middle. Oh, so I did give you the most up-to-date partnership plan. We had a meeting with the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe and the school group on Monday. The 5th, yes. And some of the things that came out of that is we really are close to having a 10-week professional learning opportunity for teachers. It's going to start on April 5th. So it would be 10 Thursdays from 4 to 5. Some great topics were discussed. We're waiting to get a little bit of a description so that we can send something out to our teachers.
Because I happen to have them with me.
Oh.
Yeah. I have the 10, I was just passing it down the table.
Oh, they are on here too, though.
Oh, they're in the agenda, okay.
No, they're in the plan.
In the plan.
Plan is,
Right.
so everyone should have that.
Yep.
So there are the topics for them, and it really, and is open to anybody. I think it will go far to sort of help our staff have a better understanding and appreciation for Mashpee's history and culture. Another thing that came out of it was, well, one other thing I wanted to make sure we talked about was, I have it written here. We're exploring being able to provide a 10-week exploratory Wampanoag language for 7th graders next year. So currently 7th graders do 10 weeks of Mandarin, 10 weeks of Spanish, 10 weeks of French. So in the 4th term, we're figuring out how that would work in terms of how could we support. Currently, the teacher for the Wampanoag language does Wampanoag 1. We want to add a level 2 to that, but it would be a combined class. So for that teacher, she's still there 1 period a day. But to get her there another period of the day, where every day she'd be doing, you know, one of those classes for 7th graders. But it's not just for native, it would be every student, which is really, I think, the important piece of starting to try to shift what Morgan Peters was talking about as well, is developing that better understanding of each other. And so once we find out for sure that that there's a trained person, whether it's the current person or someone else, to do that, then we're going to look at ways to figure out the funding for that additional spot. And I know that Principal Balstracci has talked about it, and I think we have to make sure we communicate it to all families. I'm not saying anyone, I know currently not everyone takes Mandarin. I don't know how it works if they're in music and some of those other things, but I want it to be presented to families more from a cultural perspective, because I don't want someone to say, well, I have no desire for my child to learn that language. I want them to you know, it would be more of that cultural piece where language is woven into it as well. So we'll have to, but that was a really good discussion on that. The grade 5 clam bake seems to be back that has not been happening for many years. Emily Pimentel's a 5th grade teacher who's gonna take the lead on that and work with Principal O'Brien and members of the tribe to bring that back. It would be a day in June, and so that's happening. And then the final thing to mention here at this group is we want to schedule another joint meeting with the school committee and the tribal council. And I threw out here, you'll see it in red on the front, was June 6th. That's a Wednesday, and I know things get busy, but that would be a great opportunity to sort of have closure for this year and reflection, because we met in October, we have accomplished quite a bit, and it would be a great opportunity to have that as a possible meeting time. And I don't know, we haven't reached out yet to the,
I did actually. I reached out to Trish Kalinui, and she's gonna ask the chairman about us to bring up to tribal council whether they want to do another joint meeting, and if so, is June 6th an acceptable date? So obviously I don't have a response yet, but we'll circle back. Yeah.
but June 6th would not be their tribal council night, so it might work out well. Any other thoughts? And the next meeting of this group, is when? Oh, June 11th is the last quarterly meeting for this year, so that would also be nice, because it would be sort of the week after we have met with the tribal council. Oh, one other thing that's on here that I don't know if I mentioned in previous is that we are gonna have, as an addition to Camp Falcon, one of the offerings is the Wampanoag culture, and it's going to include language. Carla Riley is going to do it, so each week will be different, so that's pretty exciting. And that's free to everybody, so.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
All right,
We are so far off.
we are so far off.
Are we?
In addition to the fact that the clocks are off.
A little bit.
8:53. We're supposed
wow.
to be 8:10. Actually, 8 o'clock, vaping.
Vaping.
Wow.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a request? Can we evaluate the remaining agenda items and determine which ones have to happen tonight so that we can set some priorities? And
Do we want to do that before the vaping? Or
well, I mentioned it because I think I requested vaping, but I'm willing to table that to the next meeting. If that's,
The only reason I might
pardon me.
promote it.
Oh, that's why
because
Stacy's here.
Oh, I know, no.
No,
Stacy said
no,
that
I'm
2
sorry,
hours.
I didn't realize that's what you were here for.
She-
You're like blending in with the books now.
I'm looking at the top of the book.
I see you now.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of us reviewing the
Especially
agenda.
given the weather. Yeah.
Given the weather and everything. And Patricia, if you're willing to return at a,
No, we'll do vaping. Let's do vaping.
Well,
Since Stacy's here.
so let's look through the agenda that we have. So we do have a preschool special request that we're supposed to vote on. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it.
So-
That I would prefer you left on.
Okay,
Mr.
so,
Ryan could probably update on the windows at another time,
yeah.
because it's gonna happen regardless.
You know that's the only reason she's still sitting there.
Yeah, poor, yeah.
Carol Chartier, here's the door.
Looks great.
12.3, I would like us to come back at the next meeting. We'll have a more robust update, I believe, at that point, so
Great.
I think we can hold off on that one. Is there anything under 12.4 as far as the working committees that
I
needs
don't
to
have
be?
that, can't wait.
Okay,
No.
so we'll let that wait.
And our last one got canceled.
The school tour, which is happening
Friday.
Friday, we should probably talk about just briefly, because
I
That won't be relevant down the road. And I believe House Bill 610 is still waiting for, and that can wait till next meeting. And then we can quickly make a decision in regard to 13.3.
And I probably have a 90-second update from the collaborative, just a few things that I think you guys need to know.
Okay,
That's it.
under subcommittee reports.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything that's pressing under subcommittee?
Nope.
George, how about yourself?
He fell asleep.
What was the question? Sorry, John.
So we're going to defer almost all of the remaining agenda items except for a couple. Nicole had mentioned that she had a brief subcommittee report that she wanted to present to the committee tonight. Do you have any subcommittee reports that you need to present to tonight, or can wait until the next meeting on the 21st?
It can wait.
Okay, so that being the case, all the items that we just talked about being deferred will be on the agenda, carried forward to the agenda. So that leaves us with the preschool special request for FY.
So vaping is vaping.
I'm-
I've got vaping.
This
Oh,
is doing that.
We're still doing
I
vaping?
have
Yes.
vaping,
Okay.
12.2,
And 13.
13.1.
And that's,
And we don't really need 13.3. We will schedule an executive, but I think it was there just if you want it before or after.
yeah,
And then Nicole had briefly something about the collaborative.
And yes.
all right.
Okay.
So those are the items we'll cover, and then the rest of them, in order, will be deferred to the 21st.
All right, let's get
All right,
going.
vaping, please.
Let's get going.
Okay.
I just want to acknowledge,
Nobody's watching anymore.
I just want to acknowledge Nurse Stacy, as we call her, because she has really taken the lead in educating our bus drivers, staff members, anyone who will listen, really, in response to, the initial concern I have for students in vaping. And and she'll probably share with you, she's made a lot of connections with Glenn Harrington, the Board of Health, in terms of making improvements in the town of Mashpee as well around this subject. So, Stacy.
Thank you. So as Patty shared, we've been doing a lot of education research. We had Kathy Wilbur from the tobacco grant come down and do a presentation at our Compass meeting a couple months ago. And from that, I've just been working with her and reaching out, reaching out to other organizations and agencies and looking for resources. All the administrators and Patty received the Mass 2011 guidelines, so we've made sure that we're doing and implementing these through the district. As Patty mentioned, I met with Glenn Harrington over what the town is doing. We've been working collaboratively on that. There's a Board of Health meeting coming up to make a motion to make sure the town that we're enforcing everything that to the FDA federal guideline level. So we've been doing a lot of collaboration, which has been really awesome. I am in the process of working with Chief Rulo to do a training for the fire department and go over what vaping is. In a minute, I'll give you the crash course. But to go over the signs and symptoms that they're going to be looking for. I presented at the Mashpee Substance Use Task Force. I actually was invited today, everybody's going to hear this for the first time, to do a presentation. Falmouth is doing a addiction as it affects the brain symposium in April on Sunday, April 8th. So I'll be doing a vaping presentation there, working with the Falmouth nurses. And I'll be presenting to Kiwanis what you guys are going to hear tonight. So the bus drivers did get to hear the training. We basically based it off of the handout I just gave you on big tobacco. If you open it and look into it, basically vaping is a tobacco product that does contain nicotine. It's sweet, cheap, and easy to get. In that fact, I actually have gone shopping around and visited various vendors and areas to just kind of buy some products. So this is actually something called a vape pen that's a hookah. And one of the things we're doing a lot of is, and I actually met with Bill, I'm drawing a blank, May, and did a PSA, so that'll be coming out soon. Haven't seen it yet, have no idea. But we just went over what the products are. So one of the things we're trying to educate and do is, Mr. Myers, you can't speak, you've already heard this, talking about what things are for vaping pens, and this is actually a vape pen, so Kathy, if you want to come grab it. But it looks like a pen. So you actually, when you take the top off, if you put your, don't do it please, but if you put your mouth on it, you would actually get a hit of nicotine. And there's 600 puffs of nicotine in that pen right there. And that's sold for $4.99. So again, cheap, easy, and doesn't look like what you and I might think of as a pen. Our kids are carrying these and hiding these. One of the things that we're spending a lot of time on and seeing is the Juul. This device looks like a USB port. Kathy again will pass it around in a minute. It's $39.99. It charges into a like your computer device. So when it comes around, this is the Juul piece. There's nicotine in this. It's flavored. They sell in packs of 4 for $16.89. And one of these Juuls is a pack of Juuls is a pack of cigarettes worth of puffing in. So let me turn that around. So trying to do a lot of education and awareness on what vaping is, what the products that are out there. In Mashpee, you must be 21, because again, it is a nicotine product. They're flavored, so if you or I were to use these right now, you would not notice that we were doing that. The Juul device you can hide in your hand. Kids stick it in their sleeves, in their shirts, sweatshirts. So we're just trying to do a lot of, again, that education and awareness for families and parents and teachers to know what these products are, because a lot of them look like everyday kind of items. The other pieces, I said they're sweet, easy, and cheap. So how are kids getting these? And the big thing is bringing to attention of, you go and you get a gift card for Visa or MasterCard. You go online, you find the product you'd like, you click, are you 18 or 21? You say yes. Computer doesn't know whether you are or not. You enter in your Visa gift card, and then that product gets shipped to your home. Kids are usually home before parents are home. UPS, FedEx, or whoever has delivered the package, the kid gets it, and you don't know that that's happened before you've come home. So doing education and awareness about teaching people not to get kids these kind of gift cards. When you go to any stores that sell tobacco products, right next to them are these gift cards, and you can also buy these at Stop and Shop or wherever. So just trying to do a lot of education and awareness, because again, it is a nicotine-based product. The research out there shows that it does cause health effects and carcinogens. The items in it are toxic. We are seeing a lot of, it's like, they're chemicals that we're inhaling. So symptoms such as, the new stats are a deadly dose for a 150-pound person is 50 to 60 milligrams of nicotine, and the vape pens are 24 to 26 milligrams, so just do a couple of those, and there's your 50 milligrams. So, because each Juul can contain that 24 to 26 milligrams of nicotine. And again, you don't smell it, you don't see it. When you do vape and you put out the vapor, hence vaping, it's a puff of smoke, but kids are inhaling it back in and ghosting it, and then inhaling it inside. Or they bend down, pretend to pick up something on the floor, blow it out, and it dissipates very quickly, and you and I would not know it, and there isn't that cigarette smoke odor. So it is a concern. There are other tobacco products. I'm not going to make you guys go through all those today. But things like cigars, the blunts, and e-liquids. The other piece, though, with liquids, there are different vape pens as you progress into what you're using. Using a vape pen and this vape juice, if you were to drink this, I believe it's 10 cc's, 10 milliliters, it's toxic. So kids getting into this, and they're fruit flavored. And they're geared and marketed to kids. So this is called Candy King. It's a Candy King batch. but it looks like Sour Patch Kids. So it's definitely marketed to younger individual, kids. But again, it is a nicotine-based product. We also don't know what's in this. So there's some of these oils have THC and other components in them, and we don't really know what we're ingesting when we do these. And there aren't any regulations to these products.
So, at Steam Night, Stacy and Christine Dwyer, this school had a table to share information. And it's sad, but I feel like when I go to the National Technology Society induction, although I think I've been told I'm not speaking at that, but anyway, if I were, it's almost to the point of wanting to do these little PSAs or say it in front of a music concert, is like, okay, I'm taking 2 or 3 minutes, it's not related to this topic, but you have to. I mean, this, which I was in, I don't know if you read it.
Yeah.
Read it, it's my article on vaping. But it's really, oh, we forgot about you, George.
No more Latin George Fuller.
We have to get our parents educated. Kids are always gonna try and, they tend to live on the dangerous side, but it's just very harmful to them and can lead to other, problems down the road with substance. And I know that we had a conversation, I think Mr. Santos and I did, that originally when, e-cigarettes came on the market as a tool for people who smoke cigarettes who might want to sort of reduce that habit or try to get off of that addiction. But it's totally changed the way it is now. And I did send Stacy a picture. It wasn't in the town of Mashpee, it was sadly in the town of Bourne when we had no power at a speedway. The whole front of the storefront was covered with Juul starter kit, $20. Every sign was about a Juul, which I thank Glenn Harrington for reaching out to the Bourne people but the answer was
Unfortunately,
they
not
can't
enforce
control it. They can't enforce it. And what it is a lot of kids who just go into a convenience store type thing. And I'm trying to get parents to go into every convenience store and really look at what's set up around the candy bars and everything else. They put it in a place to try to entice kids into it. And I do think it's so easy to get. And, trying to get our kids, we hold them accountable. It's no different than any other, substance. But I just want to get through to them to not do it, because I think the long-term damage is not known yet.
We are just starting to see this. Recently, they just released a report out that they are seeing, cancers and scarring to the lungs, and the same things that we're seeing with, people that were, are smokers. And then I just wanted to, when I was going online to see if I could purchase with my gift card, Juuls are, you can actually now design your own Juul. So I hadn't even realized that up until this week. So, and it was incredible, the amounts of options that you could have it customized to anything that you like, which I found kind of scary. And it was just very easy to do. So, but moving forward, one of the things that we didn't share was starting on Monday, the 12th, myself, Greta McHugh, the counselor here at Quash, and Sean Cahill through the sheriff's, deputy sheriff's office, we're doing a 3-week life skills parent training. Based on the first session is on communication, second one is stress and anxiety, and the third one is substance use. So we will be highlighting this information also. So we're really working towards getting the word out there. So hopefully we're making steps in the right direction.
And Stacy, if you could say too, if anyone is interested, they can just call the Quashnet office and we will register them.
So it's not too late to sign up for it. That's what we're doing on Steam Night too. Here was getting people to sign up. So love you to join us. It's 5:30 to 7:30 on Monday night, or in the morning sessions 8:15 to 10:15. We're gonna have a lot of fun, raffle prizes, and it's gonna be great. A lot of things to learn.
What time's the morning one?
8:15 to 10:15. Want me to sign you up?
Yeah, I think
Consider yourself signed up.
Yeah. So how many of the, Mark's not here, I'm kind of more interested in the middle high school, but how much of this stuff have we confiscated? Like, is it,
Well, looking at,
it's
I
obviously
remember the
illegal
answer to
on our
that.
campus, so we're allowed to take it if
Oh,
it's.
we do take
yeah,
it.
right, okay.
That's,
Correct. And kids are starting at the age of 12, so
yeah.
5th and 6th grade, it's not
I know one of the students that Dean Melby spoke to, who had the Jewel, I believe, and having a conversation with her, he kind of went through the cartridge in a day and a half. So that's a pack of cigarettes.
So how pervasive is it? How many, we have a handful of incidents, or has it been?
I'll have that for you on the 21st. I don't know that, I mean, the suspensions are lower, so I don't know, I'm not sure that there, that there've been any more people caught, because that was what was happening at the middle high school as well as I think at, have you had any more than you had at that one little blip of?
No, but it's pervasive, it's risky behavior.
And it's not just at our schools, it's at other districts as well.
Well, I think the point that you make, I was glad to hear it was at STEAM Night. I was thinking about the Maker Faire and some of these like big events, because as a parent, I think if you just know what it looks like,
Correct.
then you can recognize it in your kids' stuff or see them when they're using it.
I would have this evening brought in the poster board, but it was raining and I put a lot of time into it and I forgot a trash bag. That is what, we are going to be having that, and I know I'm going to be invited to a lot of things. So.
And if, in this article, there are 7 signs, it gives recommendations for warning signs if your child, 7 warning signs that your child might be vaping. So it's pretty easy to gather those things in terms of.
Yeah, the issue I have with that article is that vaping wasn't in the headline. And I just worry that some people, we can't rely on the enterprise to like be the big disseminator of information for the town. But I also think, I've heard a few parents say to me that kids are doing this on the buses and stuff like that. And I truly think there's only so much we can do in the schools, but parents have, the ability to recognize and see things among their kids' stuff that, any kid can hide something from a bus driver for the 20 minutes he's on the bus, or he or she's on the bus. So I don't feel comfortable like asking everybody. We can only do so much. We need, the
I think
parents.
it's education and awareness. Joyce O'Connor, the nurse at the high school, disseminated to staff, and I believe our plan is to disseminate to all staff, because whether it's in our buildings and, hopefully it's not at our pre-K through 2, but our teachers have friends, family members, kids. But a did you know and what vaping is and the symptoms to look for. And this right on here says 1 teaspoon of the sweet tasting liquid that I showed you can be lethal to a young child, has about calling 911 and poison control on it. So it's a work in progress trying to educate and put that out. We'll be putting this on the website.
But what was good, last Monday was the entire Mashpee Middle High School staff had the training that we had at Compass. So it's really important for teachers to sort of just even be aware of what they're looking for. Not that that's really another thing they're doing and trying to teach, but we're all about wellness for our students.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So, thank you for spending over a half an hour on STEAM Night, sequestering me to educate me on this. I appreciate it. Personally, what's disturbing to me is 5th and 6th graders using this product. I just can't fathom that. It's also disturbing to me that I think, as you had told me, you can buy that for $16. It's equivalent to 4 packs of cigarettes, which, if you were to go to buy a cigarette, as I understand, it's like $10 a pack. So clearly, some of the economic disincentives that we put in place in regard to cigarettes haven't transferred down to this, and I don't know whether it would make a difference or not, but it seems to me that is something that our legislators ought to be seriously looking at.
So one of the things in the guidelines for enforcing tobacco, the federal guidelines, and again, Mashpee has a motion coming out, and there'll be a public hearing to enforce these to that. So pricing is one of the, everything, limiting flavors. There's a lot of things that will probably ruffle some feathers too. And to your point, it's $9.86 for a pack of Marlboro, and these were $16.89 for a 4-pack. So It's, you know, yes.
And in the presentation we had at Compass, I mean, based on what we were told, the tobacco companies are behind all of this. They have found a way around what has become, you know, it's bad to smoke cigarettes, and so now but they're still making money.
And when you talk to kids, they say they're not smoking because it's flavored and they're, you know, they don't, it doesn't have it. So it's the education piece.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Cece.
All right, moving on to the item 12.2.
Preschool.
All right, so we have,
George.
hi, George. You're back with us. Anyway, we have two teachers who, two employees who are teachers who are requesting, they have one child, they do not live in town, they live in Falmouth. They have one child who is already in our choice program, and they are requesting any consideration for them being allowed next year to bring their 4-year-old daughter into the preschool program. And they are willing to compensate the district. We don't have anything, you know, in place that addresses this. Just some information in terms of Paul Funk was computing the per pupil spending. And so that would come down to 180 days in that program of $77 a day. We did check with Kids Club through the town for a 5-day, full-day program for 4-year-olds. It's $50 a day, but that's also from 7 to 5:30. And they pay a $75 registration fee and have to pay 2 weeks tuition up front. If you're a town employee, you get a 10% discount. They do not provide any food. So that's just information for you. And then in checking in terms of next year, we don't have an idea in terms of new to our program, 4-year-olds. We currently have 30 registered 3-year-olds who are moving into the 4-year-old program. So I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there for conversation to figure out if this is a no, if there's anything we can do. How do we do something for them that you then, there are other staff members who probably would be interested in bringing you to the school, I know of one anyway. Do we put 2 school choice seats in preschool, but you know, preschool is not anything in any other district, so that would be, you know, highly sought after, and there's no guarantee it would be them, because I would imagine the pool for 2 seats would be huge, even though they would be preference. But if there's other school, you know, there could be 10 who have a school choice student already in our district, so then you're still gambling, so I don't really know what the solution is to this.
How would, I guess we would get the quote-unquote $5,000 from the sending district?
I
Even though
don't
they
know
have a
that you
program?
would, because they don't have preschool. So
Yeah.
So there's
there would be no
no,
reason to do
choice?
that.
I don't think it could.
I don't think preschool probably qualifies as choice.
It doesn't.
so that's not.
So that's not an option, so it's,
And we had this discussion before, right, with either another town employee. I don't remember if it was a teacher or not, but it was a town employee that we
It
were
was,
asking
I
about.
think, remember, it was, there was a town employee and then there was also a teacher, the 2, but it was kindergarten, I believe.
Right.
So then the town employee backed out, decided that they didn't want to
oh,
pursue
yeah,
it.
I remember that now.
I believe that was quite the discussion, and I don't believe we came to a resolution on that, because we were afraid of precedent.
Yes.
But
So-
we could make the precedent really restrictive and say, you know, if there are ever 2 people who are married as teachers in our district who want to bring their
Well, you can't do it,
preschool child,
you can't do it
we could
specific to a
support that.
person like that. It has to be generalized.
So I apologize if I make you repeat yourself, but it's more late. So the individual, have they ever lived in Mashpee?
No.
They moved out, okay. And
They've
they have
taught in
one
the
student,
district for a very long time.
but they have one student that's choiced in.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And they would like their other one. Now, they realize that, if the preschool request is not something that can be figured out or worked out, their intention, if there is choice seats the following year, to apply for kindergarten, for this child, or whatever year it works that they can bring her here.
Excuse me.
And at the next, I don't know if it's the 21st meeting, I think it might be, we're gonna have a conversation about school choice, just an FYI, coming down the road where we'll determine seats in every level.
But currently, if a parent had a student who was choice, and that student had a sibling, there's no guarantee that they could be, or that they could come to Mashpee unless there was a choice seat and that was available. Right, they would go into the lottery.
Well, they have preference, they do get preference.
As of
But
last
only
year.
Right, so if you have
As
two
of-
seats open in a grade level and you happen to have, and two of your applicants have a sibling, they get those two spots.
I believe that was as of last year we voted on that, correct, to implement the precedents? For
That's it, that's math, that's MGL.
Oh, was that,
That's-
was it
that's-
Mass?
yeah.
Or maybe we
That's not
discovered
us.
it last year and actually had some discussion on it, something.
Yeah.
What's the capacity like at preschool?
Capacity.
In other words, she said we were expecting 30. What do we have this year, and what's our current staffing kind of allow?
Right now, we're pretty stacked.
Yeah.
We have, there's more room in the 3-year-old program, because there's half-day sessions there. But we have like 16, 17, and 18 in those 3 4-year-old programs currently.
And this past year, which I don't think we realized, but I believe about 24-year-olds were turned away.
There were about 10.
Okay. And we can't turn any 4-year-olds from Mashpee away, so we have to make sure the staffing is there. So it is an unknown right now. It could be something that gets looked at once everything's more final. But I think because it's preschool, it's pretty.
Yeah, please.
Sorry. I think it's pretty risky in the sense that I would imagine quite a few people would be interested in being able to have a full day program for their 4-year-old that was no or minimal cost. I wish we had something in place that was specific. There's nothing currently in the contract with Unit A in terms of setting something up where there is something where they can bring their child to. Other districts do have that, I believe, where you can bring your child to school in that district.
Were they unable to get kids club?
No, they would like to be in the school program. I'm sure they could get kids club program. I think right now that child is doing some kind of a partial day program. They live in Falmouth, so probably the program is in that area. They do have some family support, so.
Yeah, and here's the issue with that. So this is one of those procedural decisions that kind of stinks because you're affecting somebody, you know, a child or a family or whatever it is. But, like you said, if you allow this, and we went through this with the other 2 employees, now you're getting into a situation where you're basically giving a benefit without it being a written benefit. If you go the other way and say, well, we're just going to allow it, but it's not going to be tied to the fact that they work in the district and an employee, now you open the door to every individual that's outside of Mashpee to say, well, I'll pay, you have to let me go because this individual paid, and you're letting them go. So it's really, either way, it's not a good situation to set a precedent.
No, I agree. Unfortunately, there is no good mechanism that accommodates this currently.
I mean, clearly this needs to be, we talked about this before, and I think clearly that this needs to be brought up by the town as a benefit for town employees if this is gonna happen, so that we can be removed from this. You know, it's either a benefit or it's not a benefit, and it's easy to answer the question.
But just to understand, right now, there are no 4-year-olds that aren't Mashpee residents.
That's correct.
So
To my
this is
knowledge.
it's a program for Mashpee
Mashpee
kids. We have to
kids.
take everyone that
Yeah,
comes.
it's a free
Yeah.
program.
And so the 10 that you turned away last year were because of,
We only had 3 sessions of 4-year-olds.
So we were able to turn away 10 kids because we didn't have the space. So it was kind of a first come, first serve.
Was it lottery?
Really, we need to, huh?
Was it lottery?
Was it lottery?
How did we decide which 10 to turn away?
At that time, no, it was because of the deadline. It was not a lottery, because they had to have their information in by like the 14th of April. So not everyone that wanted it had their information in at that time, so we processed those.
I see.
For us, and we were full at that point.
But what we're gonna do this year though is to make sure we really seek all of them out, because I think in some of the situations when we really dove into that, is there were situations in place where the parent really needed support to get everything done and paperwork wise, so it's, we can make sure. we're good for that.
Somebody spoken for special ed, because we can't turn away somebody.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Just
All right.
So that's another variable.
Okay, I think I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead, Nicole.
I move to deny this preschool special request for FY19.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion to deny the request. By Nicole, second by Jeff. Any further discussion? George, did you hear the motion? All right. All right. Any,
My only discussion would just be that Chris sort of, I think you just laid it out.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've had this discussion before, and unfortunately, nothing's changed since then. It's a bad situation to be
I
in.
would like to be able to say yes, but I don't think I can.
okay.
Except for the policy committee.
Yeah, exactly. A little more extra thing for you guys.
All right. Nicole, you wanna vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Remember, you're voting to deny.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. The motion is to not approve it, so, okay.
Yes.
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 Yes? George? And yes, so unanimous. All right. Moving on, item 13.1.
So just very quickly, we have two school committee members, which are Chris and Jeff. We have John Falone and Mark Lawrence, who are our Falcon friends. We have two selectmen coming on Friday, Carol Sherman and John Cotton, and we have a finance committee member, Mike Richardson, coming. And this group is going to tour the schools so that some of the members of the committees on the town side can get a better understanding of what goes on during learning in schools today. So it's 8:30 to 9, they're at the Quashnet School, then 9:15 to 9:45 at the Coombs, 10 to 10:30 at Middle High School, and 10:30 to 11 is a conversation and refreshments in the Falcon Cafe. And I'm driving the van.
All right.
Awesome.
Excellent.
And do you guys have some specific messaging goals for that engagement? Like, are there things?
So this came out of the last Falcon Friends meeting quarterly, as some of the members of the community felt to better understand what the needs are in the school, to invite people in to experience it, because they were kind of blown away. They've done the high school tour so far, and they've done the Coombs School, and it was really impactful for them. So I think going to the Board of Selectmen meeting and even at the Finance Committee meeting, I'm not sure when the last time some of those people actually were in a school setting. So we tend to process and filter through our own experiences and think it's the same as it was, and it's drastically different in what the kids are able to do and with the resources, you know, we give them and that we need. It was felt that this would be a good opportunity to expose other members of the town. And then what one of the Falcon friends said, well, as important as what they'll see in the classroom or other side conversations we'll have with them as we travel from room to room. So I think it's a good step to just sort of be more informative and get common understanding. So,
Excellent. Can't wait to see the pictures of it. So here can be with us.
oh, well, no, there'll be no pictures of that.
All right,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, sir.
So I moved to table section 12.1, 12.3, 12.4, and 13.2 until the next meeting.
Okay.
I second.
Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Thank you, George. All right, the only other item we were gonna do.
Battery's almost gone, guys.
All right,
No,
We just
that's it.
voted you off the committee.
Yeah, exactly. You said yes.
We're at 52%, George.
all right, Nicole, you had a quick update.
Yeah,
You wanna
quickly,
share?
so a couple tidbits to share from the last collaborative meeting on February 14th. I'm not sure if you're aware that Monomoy has voted to drop school choice, so they're no longer gonna be doing that.
Interesting.
Also, I also learned that Nauset has a third of their student body is choice. They have 325 choice students at Nauset. That you guys might be impressed with.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, it is.
And that money is used to offset operating expenses, health insurance, pensions, everything you can think of in their school budget.
They're regional though, right? Are they regional?
Yeah, but only at the, is it middle high school or just high school? I think it's middle high school. But anyway, so they have, what, 1,000 kids, and a third of them are choice.
Wow.
At the collaborative, Anita Woods has become the director of special education programs, and they're gonna have 2 associate directors. So they were going to replace the director for Waypoint, who was Kevin Turner, most recently, and Anita was the director for STAR, but they've now moved her into a director of special education programs, and then they're gonna have associate directors that cover Waypoint and STAR. So she's been there for a while, and I just wanted to pass that along. Nauset got its all propane buses. That is moving full steam ahead for the 18-19 school year at a cost of $2.3 million over 7 years. They have 4 71 passenger buses, 18 65 passenger buses, and 6 53 passenger buses. They are built in Atlanta, and the engines are made in Michigan.
Sweet.
And like I said, they're all propane. And then they're having a 50-plus hour a week person on site that is their own dedicated administrator for their busing. So that's not a shared cost. That person works for the collaborative. So I'll just pass that along for Mr. Funk's edification.
Who's providing the propane service? Is the school district had to make that, or is that collaborative?
I think the district, they're talking about, that's part of their.
It's part of their
cost.
2.3
Yeah.
million, right?
And then there was one, there are a couple of bus drivers who retired, and I was just wondering how, we had a couple from Mashpee that were long-standing bus drivers, and I just thought we should maybe provide some recognition. Even though they work for the collaborative, they really service the district. And the 2 that they mentioned were Stephen Kishik and Kelly. Yes, CSEC, thank you. And Kelly Kennedy. So she's been driving for 40 years, but spent her last 8 in Mashpee, so. Yeah. And then on the other busing stuff in terms of transportation, DY is out to bid for the collaborative to take over their busing, and so is Monomoy. And I think that's everything.
All right, excellent. Thank you for the update.
Those are my highlights.
That was everything that we were planning to cover on the agenda, so do I have a motion?
Did you want to do the executive meeting?
No, I thought you.
I didn't table that one, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to cover it.
Okay.
Second that motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. George?
George did make the
George
motion.
made the motion.